Chapter 787. In the first scene, a dispirited young man was lying on a chair, staring blankly at the sky and sighing from time to time. A young girl wearing a purple dress walked over with a tray of steaming hot food in her hands. She kept calling out, "Little Marshall Uncle." This was the scene when Chu Bei first came to the Shenhuang continent. In the second scene, the sun was setting in the west. A young man walked into the courtyard next door with a beautiful dress in his hand. The dress was sky blue and as thin as a cicada's wing. Although it didn't have any fancy decorations, it was exquisite and noble. It was refreshing and natural. Most importantly, the dress emitted a faint light that was faintly discernible and very strange. In the courtyard, the young girl in purple happily took the sky blue dress from the young man. When she put it on, her beauty was indescribable. This was the scene when Chu Bei used source heaven energy to create a dress and gave it to Mu Shui. In the third scene, a young girl in a blue dress sat by the bed, holding a purple robe in her hand and giggling from time to time. The door opened and a young man walked in. The young girl was obviously flustered and then shyly stuffed the purple robe into the young man's hands. This was the scene when Chu Bei took the robe that Mu Shui made herself. In the fourth scene, Chu Bei returned from a mission and appeared in Mu Shui's room at night. That night was also a night that Chu Bei would never forget. It was the happiest time of his life. The river of time surged, recording the scenes of Chu Bei and Mu Shui. Chu Bei was still trying, but the result was still the same. The resurrection failed again and again. Don't have any hope. It won't work. At this time, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Why? Why did it fail? What went wrong? Hearing the system's voice, Chu Bei seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw and found a ray of light in the darkness. You can see if those guys from the Tian Luo clan can be of help. The system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Chu Bei was stunned at first, but when he reacted, he immediately opened up a new world. At the same time, a dazzling golden space enveloped him. This domain was filled with golden water, containing an incomparably terrifying Genesis Heaven aura. In the Genesis Heaven domain, the 2 9-stars immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan were so weak that they couldn't even gather Genesis Heaven power. When the 2 celestial emperors from the Tianluo clan saw Chu Bei again, their eyes were filled with killing intent. Your Tianluo clan controls reincarnation. I need your help to revive someone. Chu Bei's voice was cold as he sent 2 strands of divine sense related to Mu Shui into the 2 immortal emperors' knowledge seas. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Tian Luo and Tian Luo glanced at each other with a hint of joy in their eyes. We can revive her, but you have to let us go after reviving her, said the 2 immortal emperors. I don't have time for you to bargain. If the revival succeeds, I'll spare your lives. If the revival fails, your spirit will be destroyed. Chu Bei's voice was cold as he raised his hand and pointed. The Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain squeezed the 2 immortal emperors' bodies, causing them to scream miserably. The 2 immortal emperors' auras were intermittent. They didn't expect the woman to be so important to the other party. They didn't even have time to bargain. Stop. We'll help you revive her, shouted the 2 immortal emperors. Chu Bei's face was expressionless as he coldly glanced at the 2 immortal emperors. With a wave of his right hand, the rampaging Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain instantly calmed down. The 2 immortal emperors joined their palms together as divine light blossomed from their bodies. Strange runes flew out from their bodies one after another. BZZ, BZZ, BZZ. Amidst the buzzing sounds, the strange runes formed an arch bridge in the Genesis Heaven domain. Countless specks of light slowly crossed the bridge. This is the reincarnation bridge. Every speck of light that crosses the bridge is a living being. They are entering the cycle of reincarnation. The system's calm voice sounded in Chu Bei's knowledge sea. The 2 immortal emperors were using their arts to control the river of time according to Chu Bei's memories to search for their target. Gradually, the 2 immortal emperors' expressions turned ugly, and their frowns deepened. What's going on? Chu Bei seemed to have noticed something, and the Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain showed signs of going berserk again. The woman you want us to find hasn't entered the cycle of reincarnation. We've extended the time you gave us by 1,000 years, but we still can't find her. If she doesn't enter the reincarnation bridge, how can we revive her?" The two immortal emperors exchanged a look, then looked at Chu Bei and said seriously, "Hasn't entered the cycle of reincarnation? You mean you also can't revive her?" Chu Bei's eyes narrowed, and his voice was filled with intense killing intent. "As I thought, she originally had a mortal body and hadn't entered the path of cultivation, but her life was forcefully extended for 1,000 years. In addition, she has been dead for too long, so her spirit dissipated before she entered the reincarnation bridge." The system's voice sighed faintly. "The person you want to revive had her spirit dissipated before she entered the reincarnation bridge. Even if our Tianluo clan controls the reincarnation bridge, we can't revive such a dead person," the two immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan said. "Then do you remember what I said before?" Chu Bei could no longer conceal the killing intent in his eyes. The two 9 stars immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan shuddered, but before they could resist, the Genesis Heaven power in the Genesis Heaven domain compressed to the limit and frantically eroded their bodies and spirits. "Anyone related to you will never enter the reincarnation bridge." 2 explosions sounded in the Genesis Heaven domain. The bodies and spirits of the 2 immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan exploded at the same time. In addition, the other party's shouts filled with monstrous hatred could be heard. If it were in the world battlefield or the great domains of the Chaos Heavens, the explosion of 2 9 stars immortal emperor spirits would most likely annihilate several great domains. However, in the Genesis Heaven domain, the energy produced by the explosion only caused a few ripples. After killing the 2 9 stars immortal emperors of the Tianluo clan, Chu Bei looked at the 2 courtyards on the purple Yunshan peak below. His expression became absent-minded again, and he looked like a walking corpse. "If the reincarnation bridge doesn't work, you can try the underworld gate." Just as Chu Bei arrived at Mu Shuerer's courtyard and sat on a stone bench in a daze, the system's voice rang in Chu Bei's knowledge sea again. When he heard the voice, Chu Bei's empty eyes lit up with hope again. Chapter 788. What is the Netherworld Gate, and where is it? Chu Bei immediately asked the system. Among the ancient clans, the Tianluo clan controls the reincarnation bridge, while the 9 Netherworld clan controls the Netherworld Gate. After a person dies, his soul does not disperse into the reincarnation bridge, but disperses into the Netherworld. However, stepping onto the reincarnation bridge is a different way of living. Perhaps one day, one can still recover the memories of his previous life. After entering the Netherworld Gate, the dispersing soul merely finds a place to purify itself. The system's voice was calm. "As for whether she is there, we will only know after entering the Netherworld Gate." "Where is this gate?" Just as Chu Bei could not wait to ask, there was a loud boom, and a colorful circular passageway that led to an unknown place appeared in front of him. Chu Bei did not hesitate at all and stepped into the passageway directly. With a step, Chu Bei arrived at the end of the passageway. At the end of the passageway was an incomparably huge pitch-black gate. The surroundings of the gate were chaotic, and nothing could be seen clearly. The only thing that could be vaguely seen was that behind the pitch-black gate, there seemed to be a mysterious staircase that extended even higher. Looking at the pitch-black gate quietly, the surface of the gate flickered with all kinds of complicated and profound runes, and all kinds of indecipherable pictures of great ferocious beasts were engraved on it. On both sides of the gate, there was a long river of time flowing, and it was extremely demonic. The most eye-catching thing was the 2 words Netherworld above the 2 gates. Just one look at it would make one's heart palpitate inexplicably. At this moment, Chu Bei stood in front of the pitch-black gate, and he actually seemed a little small, like an ordinary person facing a towering mountain. The moment Chu Bei arrived in front of the pitch-black gate, all the cultivators and experts in the chaotic heavens, including the various great immortal emperors, looked at the distant vault of heaven. Suddenly, a loud boom that shook the entire chaotic heavens rang out, and then an incomparably huge image took shape. In the image, a mysterious and strange pitch-black gate stood in a turbid space. In front of the gate, a figure in a purple robe had his back to them. "Where is that gate? Why do I have a feeling of fear? Looking at it, it's as if I'm facing death," an expert from the great domain of primal chaos said. The Netherworld sect of the Nine Netherworld clan. In a large region in the northwest, immortal Emperor Heng Shu disappeared from the peak of a sacred mountain shrouded in immortal mist and surrounded by galaxies. In the blink of an eye, her figure appeared in the distant starry sky. She occupied a part of the void, her clothes fluttering in the wind as she looked at the scene above with an incomparably serious expression. Her agile eyes seemed to have not been baptized by the world, and endless great dows interweaved in her eyes. Could it be that the Nine Netherbird clan is the same as the Tianluo clan? Did they not perish? Immortal Emperor Heng Shu muttered softly. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through a myriad of regions and comprehend all karma. His exquisite and flawless features were outlined with a solemn expression. A familiar figure, the owner of all heaven's business. In a certain large region in the southeast, there was a barren land devoid of life. There were only a few fallen leaves on the grayish-brown earth, cold and lonely. Desolation and emptiness coexisted. There were a few huge rocks scattered on the ground. At first glance, they looked like tombstones. The sky was dim, and the faint black fog added a gloomy feeling to this barren land. It was distant and deathly silent, without any signs of life. In the depths of the boundless earth, immortal Emperor Xian Yuan soared into the sky, and a distant and faint sound echoed from where he was. In a certain large region in the far north, there was a boundless blood-red sea. It seemed to be the convergence of the blood of a supreme expert after his death, and it carried a pungent smell. Amidst the soul-stirring sound, a loud bang suddenly rang out from the blood-red sea. The surface of the sea seemed to have been sliced into two by a giant sword, and a terrifying aura that surpassed that of an 8-star immortal emperor seeped out, traversing the past, present, and future. It's said that the 9 Underworld Gate can summon dissipated spirits. Could the owner of all heaven's business be trying to revive someone? Immortal Emperor Gui Yuan came to the surface of the sea from the depths of the sea, and his cold eyes looked at the scene in the sky. Eternity shook, and the long river of time collapsed. Such a huge commotion again. Fellow Daoist Chu is really worrisome, but this is good. With him taking action, we might be able to find out the origins of those hidden extraordinary factions. In the Origin Sky Pavilion, Emperor Yuan had his hands behind his back as he stared at the huge scene in the sky. But who is he trying to revive? At this moment, many immortal emperors in the great regions of the primal chaos spoke out, communicating with their divine wills. All heaven's business, Emperor Province. In all heaven's business, Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, and the others clearly recognized Chu Bei in front of the Netherworld Gate. They looked at each other in dismay, their eyes filled with confusion. Didn't Master go to fetch Master's wife? Why did he appear in front of that gate again? Shi Hao frowned, and then he looked at the ancient dragon phoenix. Do you know the origins of this gate? What is Master trying to do? The ancient dragon phoenix's expression was grave. Among the ancient races, the Tianluo race controls reincarnation. As long as a creature dies normally, their souls will not be extinguished, and they will step onto the reincarnation bridge, walking on the path of reincarnation. However, if the soul disperses, they will not be able to enter the reincarnation bridge again. As for where the dissipated soul will go, it will be through the Netherworld Gate. Then Master appeared in front of the Netherworld Gate. Could it be that he is looking for the dissipated soul? Before Master left, he said that he was going to fetch Master's wife, but now he is in front of the Netherworld Gate. Could it be that the person whose soul has dissipated is? After Xiao Yang, Shi Hao, and the others had their guesses, their expressions immediately changed greatly, becoming incomparably ugly. However, according to what I know, these dissipated souls will enter a purified land after entering the Netherworld Gate. As time passes, they will truly die for eternity. The ancient dragon phoenix's voice was low. If Lord Sect Master wants to revive a person whose soul has dissipated, I'm afraid it won't be an easy task. Hearing the ancient dragon phoenix's words, Yi Fan, Shi Hao, and the others' expressions became even uglier. They silently looked at the scene in the sky. At this moment, Chu Bei expressionlessly stared at the incomparably enormous Netherworld Gate in front of him. Honglong. Chu Bei punched out. The fist that seemed insignificant in front of the netherworld gate directly blasted open the gate. Inside the gate, dazzling divine light shone out. One could see the dense specks of light drifting about inside. After blasting open the gate, Chu Bei directly stepped onto the heavenly staircase behind the netherworld gate. Every time Chu Bei stepped onto a step, the primal chaos around the staircase would dissipate, and the surrounding scene would also appear. They were all the same dense white specks of light. The netherworld heavenly staircase has a total of 99 steps. It is rumored that in the ancient era, only immortal emperors could ascend the staircase. Has anyone ever climbed the heavenly staircase? All of the records before that calamity have been broken. What was passed down are only bits and pieces. Who knows? In the great regions of primal chaos, all of the immortal emperor's eyes were focused on Chu Bei's figure in the sky. Chapter 789. At the same time, in a mysterious world. There were a total of 36 doors in this world, and one of the doors had the words Ninth Hell imprinted on it. After entering this door, one would notice to their shock that it was actually so vast that it wasn't inferior to the heavens. However, compared to the heavens, there were obviously much fewer people here. Moreover, it wasn't distributed in Emperor region, and it was filled with floating islands. On these immortal islands, there were many towering pavilions. An exceptionally grand hall stood towering on the island at the center, and it was surrounded by clouds and mist, causing it to seem majestic and grand. If one observed it carefully, one would notice that there was actually a layer of white mist on the surface of the hall, and as the mist surged, it gave one the feeling as if one's body and soul were being purified at the same time. Outside the hall, numerous groups of figures were spread out all over the place, and they swept back and forth like an inescapable net. Based on their auras, the weakest amongst them had actually stepped into the 9th level of the immortal king realm. At this moment, there were almost 50 figures in the hall, and every single one of them emanated a strand of formidable emperor might. The weakest amongst them was actually at the 1st or 3rd level of the emperor realm. Since our clan lived in seclusion in the origin world, no one has ever forcefully opened the netherworld gate, right? A grey-robed middle-aged man sat upright at the seat of the host, and his gaze swept past everyone in the hall as he spoke with a calm voice. There was a scene before him, and it was the scene of Chu Bei walking on the netherworld heaven stairway. "He's the first," someone replied. Logically speaking, after that calamity, no one should know how to summon the netherworld gate. How did he know? The grey-robed middle-aged man at the seat of the host spoke once more. "We don't know." The other experts in the hall replied. "Then do all of you know his origins?" The grey-robed middle-aged man asked. "Since we lived in seclusion in the origin world, we've never left, so how would we know him?" "Now, let's see how far he can ascend," replied an expert. The grey-robed middle-aged man didn't speak further, and his gaze returned to the scene once more, and it was fixed on Chu Bei. He actually stepped foot onto the 70th step. He stepped into the 7th star of the immortal king realm. After a short while, an expert in the hall exclaimed with surprise. The netherworld heavenly stairway had a total of 99 steps. When one reached the last step, the so-called Pure Land would be in sight. At this moment, it wasn't just the members of the origin world's 9th hell, all the experts from the chaotic universe were staring fixedly at the scene in the starry sky. On the stairway to heaven, although Chu Bei's pace was slow, it was extremely stable. From beginning to end, every step took the same amount of time, and the frequency was also the same. Bang! Chu Bei lifted his foot again and stepped onto the 90th step. Realm of 9 stars. How is that possible? When did another realm of 9 stars appear in the grand celestial domains? According to my knowledge, there's only Yuan, Shen Yuan, Gu Yuan, and Hengshu. When they saw Chu Bei step onto the 90th step, the group of 9 nether experts in the 9 nether Great Hall were shocked and incredulous. Chu Bei didn't know that he had become the focus of attention in the great domain of chaos. He was still walking up the sky stairway. 91, 92, 92, when he stepped onto the 98th step, his body paused slightly as if he felt the pressure, but it was only for a moment. In the end, a golden space enveloped him, and after stepping onto the 98th step, he took the opportunity to step onto the last step. Buzz! Buzz. Almost at the same time, the netherworld stairway let out a strange roar, and then it emitted a dazzling divine light. In the Nine Nether Great Hall, the group of experts looked at each other and were all stunned. Yuan Sky Space. Dia. Finally, an expert came back to his senses and exclaimed. Clan leader, he reached the top. According to the clan rules, shouldn't we? Before a Nine Nether expert in the hall could finish his sentence, the grey-robed man on the main seat disappeared. Is it here? Why can't I sense Shui-Er's aura? Chu Bei looked at the clear pool in front of him expressionlessly as he communicated with the system using his divine consciousness. Who are you? Before the system could respond to Chu Bei, a ripple appeared in front of Chu Bei, and a middle-aged man in a grey robe appeared. Look. Other than the owner of the All Heavens shop, another person has appeared. What's his background? Why would he appear in the Netherworld sect? 9 Nether patterns, he's from the 9 Nether clan. That's the ancient clan that controls the Netherworld sect. Seeing the figure that suddenly appeared in front of Chu Bei, the immortal emperors of the great domain of chaos were stunned at first, but they quickly recognized the purple cloud-like pattern on the grey-robed middle-aged man's forehead and confirmed his identity. I am the owner of the All Heavens shop. At the end of the Netherworld stairway, Chu Bei stood by the pool and looked calmly at the grey-robed man. He could feel the strength of the man in front of him, and his aura was even stronger than his. The owner of the All Heavens shop? I've never heard of it. I am the current patriarch of the 9 Nether clan, Yu Bai. Why have you entered the Netherworld sect? Yu Bai put his hands behind his back and looked at Chu Bei. I wish to revive someone, Chu Bei replied. As expected. Yu Bai sighed. What? Is it difficult? If you have any conditions, feel free to state them. Sensing Yu Bai's expression, Chu Bei knitted his brows. Owner of the All Heavens shop, I am also dissatisfied with you. This is your first time entering the Netherworld sect, and you've already reached the top of the heavenly stairway. According to the rules of the 9 Nether clan, I should have helped you. But right now, I am powerless to do anything. As his voice fell, Yu Bai let out another long sigh. What do you mean? Since there are rules, why are you powerless? Chu Bei asked with an unsightly expression. Follow me. Yu Bai turned and disappeared, and Chu Bei followed closely behind. What did the two of them talk about? Where did they go? Why didn't the scene change? Seeing Chu Bei and Yu Bai disappear, the expressions of the experts of the great primal chaos domain changed. At this time, Chu Bei had already followed the mysterious passage opened by Yu Bai to the great world where the 9 Nether clan was located. Can you feel the difference between this place and the great primal chaos domain? Above the immortal island, Yu Bai looked at Chu Bei and asked. Origin aura, Chu Bei immediately replied. The biggest difference between this great world and the great primal chaos domain was that the air was filled with origin aura. In the great primal chaos domain, only source heavenstone mines had origin aura. However, it was everywhere here, and extremely pure. Since you have already entered the second Emperor stage, you must be standing at the peak of the immortal Emperor stage in the great primal chaos domain. However, you should also know that this is still not the end of the Tao. It's not just you. Even we have only created origin spaces. I have personally experienced the methods of my clan's first patriarch. With a raise of his hand, he created an origin world that was mixed with tens of thousands of Emperor arts. The second Emperor stage cultivators had no power to resist at all. Yu Bai seemed to be recalling something, and his gaze became deep. Source Heaven World, third Emperor stage, Chu Bei replied. Chapter 790. Yu Bai nodded. Ever since that calamity, our clan's first clan leader joined forces with the other 3 immortal emperors to create a great world, the Origin World. There are a total of 36 doors in the Origin World that are independent of each other. The 9 Nether clan occupies one of the doors. The foundation of these 36 doors is Genesis Chi. Chu Bei could not help but ask, what does this have to do with the person I want to revive? Don't be impatient. Yu Bai smiled faintly, before he continued, when the Origin World was first formed, Genesis Chi was abundant, and cultivation speed was astonishingly fast. However, tens of millions of years ago, the Genesis chi of the 36 doors suddenly shrank, showing signs of completely disappearing. Do you know what this means? Once the Genesis chi of a door completely disappears, it will leave the origin world and return to the great domain of the primal chaos. Realizing the impending danger, the 36 doors began to search for a solution. However, even after using all sorts of methods, they were unable to slow down the rate of Genesis chi loss. In order to not leave the origin world, the factions with origin tools began to use the Genesis chi in their tools in an attempt to achieve a balance. However, this was only a temporary measure. As for those without origin tools, they could only continue to let their Genesis chi dwindle. Our clan was very fortunate. The first clan leader left behind an origin tool, but due to the continuous release of large amounts of Genesis chi, it showed signs of deteriorating, and the amount of Genesis chi it could release continued to decrease. It was only 10,000 years ago that we discovered that it could no longer display its original function, but it was already too late. At this point, Yubai pointed at a giant black tablet at the center of the island. That is our clan's origin tool. I'm sure you've already guessed its original function. Chubei had noticed the black tablet the moment he entered the 9 nether door. It seemed to be the end of Genesis chi, but was showing signs of drying up. However, he had not expected it to be a huge origin tool. Its name is the 9 nether tablet, and it is the foundation of our clan. It is also the reason why our clan can control the nether world. Even if an immortal emperor's soul is destroyed, as long as the caster is strong enough, the 9 nether stele can revive him. Above the immortal island, the 9 netherbird clan leader Yu Shui calmly looked at Chubei. But in order to maintain our clan's spatial Genesis chi, it has used up too much of its energy. It is now very difficult to revive someone whose spirit has been destroyed. With that, Yu Shui shook her head and sighed. Ordinary emperor artifacts can repair themselves. Could it be that even more mysterious origin tools can't repair themselves? Chubei frowned as he stared at the 9 Serenities stele. Even our clan's understanding of the 9 Abyss monument is shallow. If it could repair itself, our clan wouldn't be in such a predicament. After all, the Genesis chi released by the 9 Underworlds monument was enough to replenish the lost Genesis chi, Yu Shui indifferently replied. Hearing this, Chubei's face turned even uglier, and he unconsciously clenched his fists. Is there really no other way? Chubei muttered, his frown growing deeper. Buzz, buzz, buzz. However, at this moment, the black brick in Chubei's knowledge that had been silent all this time, the origin tool catalogue, suddenly bobbed up and down and began to vibrate. In the next instant, a wisp of faint purple light shot out from the origin tool catalogue, gathering between Chubei's brows before shooting towards the 9 Serenities stele below. Boom! When the faint purple light shone on the 9 Serenities stele, the latter suddenly released a loud noise. Immediately after, the 9 Serenities stele trembled violently. Chubei and Yu Shui were stunned. Before they could react, the 9 Serenities stele had already begun to rapidly expand. In an instant, the valley it was located in was filled to the brim. In the end, the 9 Serenities stele rose into the air and hovered at Chubei's height. Fellow cultivator, Yubai stared at Chubei in incomparable shock, his face filled with astonishment. At this moment, Chubei's entire body was wrapped in faint purple light. In particular, faint purple light had condensed between his brows and shone on the 9 Serenities stele. When he looked at the 9 Serenities stele again, it was as if it had been reborn with a faint purple light. Its buzzing seemed to contain a kind of excitement. At first glance, there seemed to be some kind of connection between the two. In response to Yubai's questioning gaze, Chubei fell silent and did not immediately respond. At this moment, he was also incomparably shocked. He had discovered that in addition to the 9 Serenities stele, the origin tool catalogue in his knowledge also seemed to be changing. The mysterious runes revolving around it were slowly assembling. Rumble. Another few seconds passed. The 9 Serenities stele began to turn transparent, and the power contained within it grew increasingly terrifying. On the countless immortal islands below, more and more experts awakened from their secluded cultivation and hovered in the air. When they discovered the changes to the 9 Serenities stele, every one of them revealed looks of astonishment. What did that person do to the clan treasure? The clan leader is also here. Did you guys feel it? The Genesis chi in the 9 Serenities stele is becoming increasingly abundant. That person must have been invited by the clan leader. This is great. In other words, the day of Genesis chi destruction has been extended again. Who is that person? How did he do it? Countless origin race experts stared at Chu Bei in shock, their eyes filled with confusion and gratitude. This is great. The 9 Serenities stele has awakened. Yu Bai was overjoyed when he sensed the changes to the 9 Serenities stele. With a buzzing sound, the 9 Serenities stele left Chu Bei's body and shrank until it returned to its original size. Then, with a boom, it was inserted into the valley below, continuously releasing Genesis chi. Fellow cultivator 9 Serenities, can we revive Shue'er now? Chu Bei ignored the changes in the Origin tool catalog in his knowledge and immediately cast his gaze towards Yu Shue'er with an excited expression. Yu Bai nodded. Fellow cultivator, please follow me. As his voice faded, Yu Bai waved his sleeve, causing a ripple to appear. In an instant, Yu Shue'er and Chu Bei's figures disappeared. Quick, look. It's appeared again. Almost at the same time, an expert from the great domain of the Chaos Heavens cried out in surprise. In an instant, all the experts' gazes once again focused on the image of the Nether Gate in the distant sky. The Nether Heaven staircase had a total of 99 steps. In front of the last step was a clear pool. At this moment, Yu Shue'er and Chu Bei were standing beside the pool. Owner of the All Heavens shop, have you really thought this through? Although you revived the 9 Serenities stele, the clan rules set by our ancestors cannot be broken. Even if you reach the top of the heavenly staircase, you can only revive one person. Yu Shue'er calmly looked at Chu Bei. At this moment, the attention of the 9 Serenities experts on the Immortal Islands in the 9 Serenities door was also focused on Chu Bei, as if they were curious about what kind of existence a second Emperor expert who could revive the 9 Serenities stele would revive. Thank you. Chu Bei calmly looked at Yu Shue'er. Chapter 791. Yu Shue'er nodded. With a wave of her right hand, the 9 Serenities tablet appeared. The next moment, the pool water churned violently, and the water's surface was enshrouded in multicolored mist. Boom! The 9 Serenities tablet floated above the pool water, emitting a dazzling divine light that enveloped the pool water. Origin energy filled the air, and countless specks of light rose from the bottom of the pool amidst a strange Tao sound. They converged and gradually formed a beautiful woman with a graceful figure. Look, it's a woman. Is that the person the owner of the All Heavens shop wants to revive? Who is she to the owner of the All Heavens shop? Many experts from the Chaos realm fixed their gazes on Mu Shue'er, carefully sizing her up. Is that our master's wife? She's so beautiful. Bing Tong Tong exclaimed in the All Heavens shop. Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, Tang San, and the others also fixed their gazes on Mu Shue'er, their faces filled with joy. She doesn't have any cultivation. This is my only chance, and I actually used it on an ordinary person. She must be the most important person to him. Inside the 9 Serenities door, a group of experts detected Mu Shue'er's aura and were surprised. Shue'er, Chu Bei murmured softly. He had already decided that once Mu Shue'er was revived, he would teach her the art of immortality. Before this, he couldn't have predicted what happened in the sky market, let alone that Mu Shue'er was dead when he returned. Buzz. At this moment, an arched bridge appeared in front of Mu Shue'er, its surface emitting a dazzling divine light. Fellow Chu, her dissipated spirit has completely reassembled. She only needs to cross this reincarnation bridge to be truly revived, Yu Shue'er said, pointing at the bridge. Chu Bei nodded heavily, his fists clenched, his eyes shining. However, just as Chu Bei was waiting expectantly for Mu Shue'er to cross the reincarnation bridge, a bolt of black lightning suddenly appeared above the bridge. Boom! Before Chu Bei could react, the black lightning struck Mu Shue'er's body. In an instant, Mu Shue'er dissipated, returning to nothingness. No! Don't! Chu Bei came back to his senses and immediately sent out several ripples. But Mu Shue'er had already disappeared. Boom! Chu Bei turned to attack the black thunderbolt above the reincarnation bridge. With a terrifying bang, the black thunderbolt was annihilated. I failed. How could this be? This has never happened before. Why would lightning appear on the reincarnation bridge? The powerhouses of the Nine Netherbird clan looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. In the past, when the Nine Netherbird clan resurrected the dead, the reincarnation bridge had never shown any abnormalities. The only possibility was that the Tianluo clan, who controlled the reincarnation bridge, had intervened. Fellow Daoist, what's going on? Where did that lightning come from? Chu Bei looked at Yu Shui, his voice turning low. Fellow Chu, have you ever had a grudge with the Tianluo clan? Surprise flashed across Yu Bai's eyes when he saw the black thunderbolt that had suddenly descended. Clearly, he had not expected such a situation to occur. Tianluo clan. Chu Bei's face was extremely gloomy and his eyes were bloodshot. Not long ago, he had personally killed 2 9-stars and 1 celestial emperor from the Tianluo clan. At this moment, Chu Bei recalled the words of the 2 celestial emperors from the Tianluo clan before they died. Anyone related to you will never enter the reincarnation bridge. These were the final words of the 2 celestial emperors before their souls exploded. They were filled with monstrous hatred. Chu Bei suppressed the anger in his heart and looked at Yu Shui. Fellow Daoist, Shui, you killed my clansman. How can we let her cross the reincarnation bridge safely? After being struck by the black thunderbolt of my clan, even if the 9 Netherbird clan intervenes, it will be impossible for her to survive. Before Yu Shui could speak, a cold voice sounded. Then, a man in a long black robe appeared above the reincarnation bridge. Chu Bei glanced at the black-robed man coldly and then looked at Yu Shui, as if waiting for her answer. Yu Shui did not speak. She only shook her head and sighed. Your entire clan deserves to die. Chu Bei's gaze returned to the black-robed man above the reincarnation bridge. He could no longer suppress his killing intent and a violent aura erupted. The Tianluo clan. They've appeared again. They're the ones who stopped Master's wife's resurrection. The Tianluo clan's actions are truly irreconcilable with the All Heavens shop. In the chaotic heavens, countless experts guessed the identity of the black-robed man and voiced their opinions. The people in the All Heavens shop were burning with anger. Tian Hai, why don't you let me be the mediator between your clan and fellow Daoist Chu? Yu Shui looked at the black-robed man on the reincarnation bridge and said indifferently. Clan leader Yu, are you trying to interfere in my clan's affairs? If so, I'll go back and tell the clan leader to interfere in your clan's affairs in the future. The black-robed man looked at Yu Shui without any respect. Tian Hai, how dare you? How dare you speak to my clan leader like that? At this moment, a man appeared beside Yu Shui and shouted at the black-robed man from the Tianluo clan. The Tianluo clan should all die. Before Yu Shui could speak, Chu Bei's low voice sounded again. Fellow Daoist Chu, Tian Hai is the second elder of the Tianluo clan. Like you, his cultivation has reached the pinnacle of 1-star Emperor level 2. Yu Shui deliberately pointed out Tian Hai's identity. In his opinion, although Chu Bei had reached 2-star Emperor level 2, he was only at the pinnacle of 1-star Emperor level and could not contend against an ancient clan. Moreover, the 9 Netherbird clan was greatly indebted to Chu Bei. In addition, he had failed to revive Mu Shui and felt guilty. He naturally did not want to see Chu Bei and the Tianluo clan fight to the death. Chu Bei glanced at Yu Shui indifferently and did not respond. At this moment, his divine will was communicating with the system in his knowledge. Do you really want to destroy an ancient clan? The golden disc swayed, and a faint sigh sounded from within. I don't want you to be so ostentatious, but for the current situation, it's useless for me to say anything more. Just as the system's voice fell, the 2 floating source heaven spaces on the system interface lit up with a dazzling divine light. The next moment, there was a buzzing sound, and a white and tender figure appeared in the divine light. It was a white and fat doll without any clothes. This is an origin spirit. When a 2-star Emperor level 2 breaks through to 4-star, an origin spirit will be born in the source heaven space. 5-star. This is the highest level of cultivation I can lend you at the moment. A low voice sounded from the golden disc. Many thanks. Chu Bei's divine will moved, and the source heaven space with the origin spirit instantly trembled. At the same time, Chu Bei's overall aura also changed slightly. Then, Chu Bei looked at Tian Hai above the reincarnation bridge. What? You finally can't hold it in anymore and are ready to make a move? Tian Hai sneered when he met Chu Bei's gaze. As his cold voice fell, ripples spread out in all directions with Tian Hai as the center, forming a huge square space. Chapter 792. That's the source heaven space that sect master Chu mentioned. That guy from the Tianluo clan, like the owner of the All Heavens shop, has also reached the Emperor Stage 2. Won't the next battle be a battle between Emperor Stage 2 experts? The immortal emperors from the great domains of the Chaos Heavens were all stunned when they recognized the source heaven space that Tianhai had used. Among them, even Yuendi, who was ranked first on the Immortal Emperor ranking list, was only at the peak of Emperor Stage 1 and 9 stars. If the owner of the All Heavens shop hadn't told them about the Emperor Stage 2, they wouldn't have been able to recognize the source heaven space. Master will be fine, right? In the All Heavens shop, Bing Tongtong looked worried. Don't worry, Master has never been defeated. Xiao Yang glanced at Bing Tongtong, his expression unchanged. Clan leader, should we make a move? The owner of the All Heavens shop revived the Nine Nether Monument, which is a great favor to our clan, the second elder of the Nine Netherbird clan said to Yu Shui. The owner of the All Heavens shop is also at the peak of Emperor Stage 1. Even if he can't win against Tian Hai, he won't lose either. Yu Shui shook her head. What I'm worried about is if Tian Tong attacks the owner of the All Heavens shop. What should we do then? This is indeed a difficult problem. The second elder of the Nine Netherbird clan fell into deep thought when he heard Yu Shui's words. If they stood by and did nothing, they would be labeled as unrighteous. But if they made a move, they would be standing on the opposite side of the Tianluo clan. Since ancient times, the Nine Netherbird clan and the Tianluo clan had stayed out of each other's business. Let's wait and see first. Yu Shui's gaze swept over Chu Bei and Tian Hai as she sighed. As for Chu Bei, he didn't even look at Tian Hai and waved his right hand. Suddenly, the void in front of him cracked open, revealing a huge gap. Inside the gap, there was chaos at first, then a clear and bright world appeared. There were 36 doors in this world, and behind each door was a small world that didn't seem to be related to each other. Runes of the Great Tao interweaved above the doors, revealing different words, such as Nine Nether and Tianluo. Do you think I don't exist? Tianhai's eyes narrowed as he looked at the opened gate. He waved his hand, and sent the source heaven space enveloping him, towards Chu Bei. What kind of place did the owner of All Heavens shop open? There are a total of 36 doors. Could it be that the Nine Nether and Tianluo clans came from there? Are there ancient tribes living in the other portals as well? Is the Zero organization, which controls all the passages in the major regions, among them? When the experts from the various large domains in the Chaos Universe saw Chu Bei open the origin world with a wave of his hand, they were first stunned, then astonished. Emperor's Heaven, Emperor Lord of the Emperor Heavens, Heave's Origin Emperor Nine Heavens Palace, Emperors. Boom, the Tianluo clan's second elder Tianhai's source heaven space arrived in front of Chu Bei with terrifying Genesis aura. However, just as the dazzling Genesis heaven space was about to envelop Chu Bei, a loud boom rang out. The Genesis heaven space bounced far away as if it was hit by an irresistible force. It didn't touch Chu Bei at all. Tian Hai was stunned when he witnessed this scene, but Chu Bei had already stepped into the origin world before he could recover from his shock. To be precise, he had appeared above the door with the word Tianluo floating above it. How did he directly open Tianhai's Genesis heaven space? The Nine Nether clan's second elder was puzzled. When two immortal emperors of the same cultivation level fought, they would usually use their respective Genesis heaven spaces before competing. No one had ever heard of someone who could ignore their opponent's Genesis heaven space. His aura changed in that instant. Yu Shui frowned slightly as if thinking about something. Clan leader, what do you mean? The Nine Nether clan's second elder looked at Yu Shui. It should be an illusion. Yu Shui shook her head and also appeared in the origin world. In the origin world, Chu Bei coldly looked at the tightly shut Tianluo door below. He clenched his fist and punched downwards in a simple and violent manner. Bang! Accompanied by a loud bang, the Skynet door rippled. Dense Emperor Dao runes floated from the door, and a strange buzzing sound continued to ring. Tianhai, you didn't handle this matter well enough. This person has already come to the origin world and is attacking our clan's door so brazenly. I'm afraid our Tianluo clan will become the laughingstock of other clans. At this moment, a chilling voice rang out from the door. Immediately after, several figures walked out from the Tianluo door, each of them with extremely powerful auras. The number of immortal emperors could be counted on 2 hands. In terms of aura, the red-haired middle-aged man at the center was even stronger than the second elder, Tianhai. Obviously, he had also stepped into the second emperor realm. Yu Shui had her hands behind her back as she glanced indifferently at the red-haired middle-aged man and transmitted her voice to Chu Bei. This is the Tianluo clan's grand elder, Tian Yu. He's also the second strongest person in the Tianluo clan and has already stepped into the 2 stars realm. Yu Shui, do you have any dealings with this person? Or perhaps you're bored and have come to watch the show? Suddenly, another low voice sounded, and it was filled with dignity. In the next moment, a man in golden robes and a silver crown appeared in front of Tian Yu. His gaze swept past Yu Shui before it descended onto Chu Bei, and he was expressionless. Brother Tian, long time no see. Looks like you haven't broken through that barrier after being in seclusion for so many years. Yu Shui laughed loudly when she sensed the golden-robed man's aura. The man in the silver crown was naturally the current patriarch of the Tianluo clan, Tian Tong. He was a supreme existence at the peak of the second emperor realm and the 3rd star realm. At our level, it's extremely difficult to break through again. Tian Tong glanced at Yu Shui and replied indifferently, Brother Yu, you haven't answered my question. Yu Shui smiled. Let's wait and see. After all, our clan owes the owner of the All Heavens shop a great debt of gratitude. He killed 2 of our clan's elders. As the patriarch, if I don't send him to the netherworld, I'm afraid I'll have to give my position to someone else. Tian Tong snorted coldly. If you make a move, I'm afraid it'll cause a war between the 2 clans. At that time, it'll be difficult to clean up the mess. Yu Shui frowned when she heard Tian Tong's words. Her expression clearly became ugly. Brother Yu, you must think carefully. Tian Tong's gaze fell on Chu Bei after she said those threatening words. Tell me the whereabouts of the origin tool catalog first. Your clan deserves to be killed. Chu Bei's expression was dark and cold. He ignored Tian Tong's question. After his low and cold voice fell, his body swooped down, and he clenched his fist and smashed it directly at Tian Tong. You overestimate yourself. Tian Tong raised his fist and met the attack. However, Tian Tong's expression changed as soon as she said those words. Chapter 793. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion rang out as the 2 majestic golden Genesis heaven powers collided. Terrifying energy waves rippled across the origin world. BZZ 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 at almost the same time, the mysterious power of laws unique to the origin world enveloped the 2 of them, forming an independent space. At the moment of the collision, other than the 9 Netherbird clan's clan leader Yu Shui, even Tian Yu and the other celestial emperors who were as strong as 2-star celestial emperors were forced to take a few steps back from the energy waves that erupted from the battle. They're evenly matched. No, the patriarch is at a disadvantage. How is this possible? Isn't the owner of the All Heavens shop only at the 1-star stage? The expressions of the Tianluo clan experts abruptly changed when they saw this scene. In the previous collision, their patriarch's body had trembled slightly, but the owner of the All Heavens shop hadn't moved at all. The 9 Netherbird clan's second elder stared blankly at Chu Bei. When he came back to his senses, he couldn't help but look at Yu Shui. Patriarch, how strong is the owner of the All Heavens shop? Peak 3-star. His even surpassed 3-star. Yu Shui took a deep breath and stared intently at Chu Bei. Her expression was incomparably serious, and her eyes were also filled with deep shock. Who are you? Tian Tong was clearly shocked by Chu Bei's strength. Just a simple collision was enough for him to determine that Zhu Yuan's strength was in no way inferior to his. No, it can't be. The most astonished person present was none other than Tian Hai, who was the first to appear on the reincarnation bridge. He stared at Chu Bei in disbelief. He never would have imagined that Zhu Yuan's strength was on par with his patriarch. The owner of the All Heavens shop is already strong enough to contend with the patriarch of an ancient race, and he's not at a disadvantage. The origin of the owner of the All Heavens shop has always been unclear. Do you think he's an immortal emperor from before the catastrophe? Absolutely. If he was born after the catastrophe, his strength would have long entered our sights. The experts from the various great regions of the Chaos Great Heavens, who had also witnessed the scene, discussed spiritedly. Like I said, there's no need to worry about Master. Xiao Yang looked at Bing Tongtong with a smile. At this moment, Yu Shui's expression returned to normal, and she immediately said, Brother Tian, fellow Daoist Chu, since we've already fought, then why don't you listen to me and stop fighting? Tian Tong, the clan leader of the Tian Luo clan, snorted coldly when he heard Yu Shui's words. Clearly, in his view, the owner of the All Heavens shop of unknown origins already stood at the same height as him, so there was no need to fight to the death. On the other hand, the All Heavens shop established by the other party was far from comparable to his race. If they really fought to the death, the other party would flee first and then turn back to take revenge on his race. This was not a situation he wanted to see. As for Chu Bei, he merely glanced at Yu Shui and said in a cold voice, I have said that everyone in the Tianluo clan must die. If you want to fight, then let's continue. Tian Tong's expression grew even gloomier when he heard Chu Bei. His terrifying origin energy immediately erupted once more, and it condensed into an attack that blasted towards Chu Bei. Chu Bei raised his fist to meet the attack, die, accompanied by a single syllable from the cold in the forest. Another world-shaking rumble resounded from the battlefield. Even Yu Shui's body was covered in ripples that blasted the aftershock of their attacks away. OM. 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 Right at this moment, amongst the 36 entrances in the origin world, besides the 9 Hell and the Tianluo clan, the other 34 entrances showed signs of activity as well, and there were even a few figures that walked out from some of them. An ethereal entrance. A large mountain that was surrounded by a river of stars had appeared within the entrance. A slender figure was faintly discernible at the peak of the mountain. She stood within the ethereal mist, and her hair fluttered while the river of time flowed within her eyes. Who is he? He's actually able to fight Tian Tong. The woman within the entrance flipped her hair while slight surprise appeared on her flawless features. The Blood Demon entrance. A ripple appeared in front of the entrance as a phenomenon appeared. To be more precise, it was like a door had been opened, and a boundless reddish-brown expanse of land lay before them. It seemed as if it had been tainted by blood, and it was cold and desolate. Desolation and emptiness coexisted here, and there were a few mysterious rocks that emanated a strange aura scattered about. Profound words were carved into the surface of these rocks. The world within the entrance was dusky, and the faint black mist added a gloomy feeling to it. The boundless expanse of land was distant and deathly still, and there were no signs of life at all. Since the establishment of the origin world, there have been countless battles between the entrances, but this is the first time a battle between the leaders has occurred. How interesting. Suddenly, a ray of light shot out from the depths of the reddish-brown expanse of land, and it pierced through the battlefield and swept past Chu Bei in an unbridled manner. The Noga clan's entrance. When the entrance opened, it was like a golden ocean world. Golden waves swept up from the surface of the ocean from time to time, bringing about majestic energy storms. What's going on? The Genesis Chi within the 9 Underworlds clan has strengthened. Could it be that they've found a way to save us? Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the golden ocean surface was cut in half. Immortal Emperor aura seeped out, and an imposing figure appeared on the surface of the ocean. His attention was no longer on the battlefield, but when he sensed the changes in the Genesis Chi within the 9 Underworlds door, his eyes suddenly narrowed. Suddenly, the eternal void shook, and the river of time became chaotic. It's him. The owner of the All Heavens shop. I didn't expect him to come to the origin world. Who would have thought that his strength has already reached Tian Tong's level? At the same time, several figures walked out of a door with the words Emperor Hall floating above it. When they recognized Chu Bei, they instantly revealed astonished expressions. Rumble. In the origin world, the battle between the patriarch of the Tianluo clan, Tian Tong, and Chu Bei was about to erupt. Under the gazes of countless immortal emperors, the two used all kinds of supreme emperor techniques one after another. One world battlefield collapsed, and another immediately created a brand new world battlefield. The river of time collapsed one after another, from one end to the other, passing through the ancient times until the present. Boom! Tian Tong unleashed the source heaven space, which enveloped Chu Bei. The density of source heaven power within it was far greater than that of the Emperor Grade 1 Sky Sea. Almost at the same time, Chu Bei also unleashed the source heaven space. Unlike the former, Chu Bei's source heaven space had a white and chubby baby waving its little hands. Source spirit. How is this possible? Who is he? If he had reached the Emperor Grade 2 before that catastrophe, why would he appear here, and even come to the great domain of the Chaos Heavens? When they saw the white and chubby baby in Chu Bei's source heaven space, the expressions of the experts in front of the various doors changed. Their voices were filled with shock, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 794. Above 4 stars. We've provoked an existence we shouldn't have. The Tianluo clan experts looked at each other, and then their gazes fell on Tian Tong, their faces filled with worry. Yu Shui and the other immortal emperors from the 9 Netherbird clan were also stunned. The appearance of an origin spirit was beyond their expectations. At first, he thought that Chu Bei had just entered the second stage of the martial emperor stage not long ago. It was only after his first battle with Tian Tong that he realized he was wrong. Tian Tong was also a peak second stage or third stage martial emperor. But just when he thought that Tian Tong and Chu Bei were evenly matched, the appearance of an origin spirit told him that he was wrong again. An origin spirit would only appear in the origin heaven space when one broke through from 3 stars to 4 stars. It seemed like there was only a difference of 1 star, but the actual disparity in battle power was not just 1 or 2 stars. Perhaps the situation wouldn't be obvious if they didn't use their full strength, but as the battle reached its climax, the gap between the two would gradually become apparent. Rumble. This battle lasted for countless years. More and more experts came out from their respective doors to watch the battle. In the first 10,000 years, Tian Tong had used all kinds of emperor arts to compress the origin heaven power in her origin heaven space to the extreme, but she was still able to contend with Chu Bei. However, 10,000 years later, cracks appeared in Tian Tong's origin sky. She was also blasted apart by Chu Bei again and again. In the third 10,000 year, Tianluo clans Tian Hai and Tian Yu also joined the battle to help Tian Tong. But even so, the situation didn't change. In the fifth 50,000 year, Yu Shui appeared on the battlefield and tried to persuade Chu Bei, but when she realized that Chu Bei didn't show any mercy and even attacked her, she immediately retreated. In the sixth 10,000 year, Tian Hai, a peak second stage and 1-star martial emperor, had his spirit and physical body truly perished. In the 7th 10,000 year, Tian Yu, a peak second stage and 2 stars martial emperor, was completely killed by Chu Bei. In the 8th 10,000 year, the Tianluo clan's patriarch's origin heaven space collapsed, and his spirit was destroyed in the river of time. Boom! Along with an enormous bang, the battlefield vanished, and the origin world instantly fell into a strange and deathly silence. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the various sects expressionlessly. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the Tianluo clan's door. Brother Chu, please leave a way out. The Tianluo clan is an ancient clan. Yu Shui seemed to have seen through Chu Bei's thoughts and hurriedly spoke up. However, before he could finish speaking, Chu Bei's cold voice rang out. I have said that everyone in the Tianluo clan must die. Chu Bei's eyes were filled with killing intent. As his voice rang out, the source heaven domain with an origin spirit slammed into the heavenly net door. Crack! With a crisp sound, the door split open, and the Genesis heaven space seeped into the door. Immediately after, there was a series of explosions, and a dazzling light shone from the Tianluo gate. When everything calmed down, sighs could be heard from the other portals. They had witnessed the demise of an ancient race with their own eyes. Amidst the sighs of pity, the cultivators from the other sects left one after another. It was as if they were just watching a show. Yu Shui shook his head and disappeared with his clansmen. In next to no time, besides the 35 tightly shut doors, only Chu Bei remained within the entire Origin world. Master. When Chu Bei left the Origin world and returned to the Chaos Multiverse, Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, Chen Nan and the others immediately approached him with respectful expressions. Chu Bei's suffocating and terrifying aura had already vanished. After sensing the auras of the various immortal emperors around him, he said indifferently, "I won't be seeing anyone in the near future." The immortal emperor's auras dissipated, and they all left. Tang San asked, "Master, is Master's wife not coming back?" Chu Bei didn't answer Tang San's question. Instead, he said, "I need to go into secluded cultivation for a period of time. I'll leave the trivial matters of the All Heavens shop to all of you." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Bei transformed into strands of ripples and vanished. After destroying the Tianluo clan, Chu Bei entered secluded cultivation and began endless cultivation. While Chu Bei was cultivating, the golden disk in his sea of knowledge lit up with a dazzling divine light. Every time Chu Bei finished cultivating an emperor's Tao, the golden disk would release a stream of light that entered Chu Bei's body. Time passed quickly during secluded cultivation. In the first 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 16 Stars realm. In the second 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 17 Stars realm. In the third 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 18 Stars realm. In the fourth 100,000 years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 19 Stars realm. In the fifth 100,000 years, Chu Bei was still in the Emperor 19 Stars realm. In the first million years, Chu Bei comprehended the myriad Taos of all the highest grade goods in the All Heavens shop and entered the Emperor 2 stage. The moment he broke through, the immortal Emperor power in Chu Bei's body seemed to have undergone a qualitative change, and a mysterious space enveloped him. Source Heaven Space, the symbol of the Emperor 2 stage. Chu Bei didn't come out of secluded cultivation. He continued to cultivate endlessly, as if he was possessed. In the second million years, Chu Bei still reached the peak of the Emperor 2 stage 1 star. In the third million years, Chu Bei's cultivation was still the same, and he couldn't break through. At this level, even advancing by 1 star was extremely difficult. It was no longer a matter of time, but more of an opportunity and enlightenment. In the first million years, Chu Bei finally gave up. Even if he comprehended myriad Taos, he still couldn't break through. Just as Chu Bei opened his eyes, a voice came from the devil fruit tree, "With the current me, the Genesis Heaven aura I can provide is not enough to support your breakthrough." Wong wong wong, but at this moment, the black brick floating in Chu Bei's knowledge sea released a buzzing sound. In the next instant, majestic Genesis Heaven aura erupted from it, enveloping Chu Bei's entire body. In an instant, Chu Bei broke through the bottleneck of his cultivation, and he directly entered the Emperor 2 stage 1-2 stars. "It actually helped you." A surprised voice came from the golden disk. Chu Bei didn't pursue the matter. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? He immediately used the Genesis Heaven aura provided by the black brick and the golden disk to enter a state of cultivation. This time, in just 1 million years, Chu Bei entered the Emperor 2 star stage. After another 2 million years, Chu Bei reached the peak of the 3 stars, which was equivalent to the strength of the 9 Netherworld clans Patriarch Yu Shui and the Tianluo clans Patriarch Tian Tong. Boom! Finally, in the second million years, Chu Bei made another breakthrough and entered the Emperor 4 star stage. It was also at this moment that the Emperor Qi in Chu Bei's body began to nourish the golden disk and black brick, as if it was nourishing them. My memory has recovered a little. I remember now. Old Seven can revive that girl. At this moment, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's knowledge sea. "You mean, Shui can be revived?" Hearing the golden disk's voice, Chu Bei was first taken aback, and then his expression became excited. Chapter 795. Even though countless years had passed, Mu Shui's death was still a hurdle in Chu Bei's heart that he could not overcome. As he grew stronger, he also knew that the possibility of reviving Mu Shui was close to zero. However, what made him happy was that the system actually told him that there was still a possibility of revival. Who is Old Seventh? Where can I find him? Chu Bei asked impatiently. I once told you that before the chaos and the great heavens were formed, there were 18 origin tools. These 18 origin tools were ranked according to their strength. The Old Seventh I mentioned is the origin tool ranked 7th. The golden disc replied indifferently, as for where to find him, you'll have to rely on him. At this point, the golden disc shook and extended a branch to point at the black brick that was floating up and down. How do I use this origin tool chart? Chu Bei frowned. Even though his cultivation had reached the Emperor 2 or 4 stars, he still could not see through this black stone brick. It was as if there was a mysterious seal inside. No matter how he penetrated it with his divine sense, he could not penetrate it. Although it's still in a dormant state, your strength is already enough to provide us with energy. Perhaps in another 1,000,000 years, it should awaken. And I'll recover more of my memories. Above the golden disc, a white and tender doll appeared. When the origin tool chart awakens, not only will Old Seventh's information appear, but the information of the other origin tools will also appear. At that time, you can use the location given by it to find Old Seventh. I won't be able to help you on your path of cultivation in the future. You can only rely on yourself. The golden disc's voice sounded again. You should be able to sense that the energy in the origin tool chart is also connected to you. If you encounter a strong enemy, you can use my power and its power at the same time. Hearing the golden disc's words, Chu Bei nodded slightly. With his current strength, every breakthrough was extremely difficult. He had cultivated 10 million Dao fruits to the Emperor realm and even fused 10 million Dao fruits into one. However, his cultivation level stopped at the Emperor 2 or 4 stars. It's time to go out and take a look. Chu Bei sighed. With a wave of his sleeve, the independent world he had created shattered. In the great heavens of the chaos. Above high heavens, in the all heavens shop's Emperor district. In the distant sky, a figure walked out from the pitch-black gap. Chu Bei frowned as soon as he returned to the grand heavens. Strange energy fluctuations actually appeared in the air of the grand heavens. It was the origin energy that only the origin realm possessed. Master, you've come out of seclusion. Soon, Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, Chen Nan, Tang San, and the others appeared in front of Chu Bei. Chu Bei glanced at Xiao Yang and the others. After 2,000,000 years, other than Bing Tong Tong, Biyu Xian, and Little Long Huang, everyone else's cultivation had surpassed Die's 7 stars realm. What is this Genesis Qi? Chu Bei asked. Master, 1,000,000 years ago, 9 doors in the origin world left the origin world due to Genesis Qi exhaustion and returned to the all heavens regions. The thin Genesis Qi in the air was brought by these 9 doors, Xiao Yang replied. What did they do? Chu Bei frowned slightly. Just like us, they created an emperor province on their own and didn't do anything else, Xiao Yang said. Go and invite all the immortal emperors of the grand heavens to the emperor province. Chu Bei glanced at Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, Tang San, and the other disciples. Master, what are you going to do? Shi Hao and the others were puzzled. You will know soon. Chu Bei said indifferently and then waved his hand. Go. Yes, Master. Xiao Yang and the others did not ask any more questions and disappeared. Above the heavens, Emperor Province under the moon. In the center of Emperor Province, on a sacred mountain surrounded by galaxies, a slender figure stood in the mist. Her hair danced in the wind, and the river of time flowed in her eyes. Immortal Emperor Xiao, why do you have time to come here? The Empress of the Moon looked at Xiao Yang, who suddenly appeared in front of her, and a smile appeared on her exquisite and flawless face. Master has come out of seclusion and invited you to the All Heavens shop, Xiao Yang said calmly. You really are cold. The Empress of the Moon glared at Xiao Yang, and her words were filled with resentment. I have personally invited you. Xiao Yang did not say anything else and disappeared. Above the heavens, Emperor Province. This great province was like its name. There was almost no life as far as the eye could see. It could even be said that this huge emperor province only existed for one immortal emperor. The reddish-brown earth seemed to have been dyed in blood, cold and lonely. Desolation and emptiness coexisted. There were some huge rocks scattered on the ground, and at first glance, they looked like tombstones. The world was dim, and the faint black mist added a sense of gloominess to Emperor Province. The endless reddish-brown earth was distant and deathly silent. There was no sign of life. Suddenly, a figure appeared above the great earth. Immortal Emperor Shi's arrival is truly rare. In the depths of the reddish-brown earth, a ray of light shot out, and then another figure appeared. Immortal Emperor Huang Wu, Master has come out of seclusion. He invites you to make a trip. Shi Hao went straight to the point. All right. Immortal Emperor Huang Wu replied with a single word. Above the heavens, Star Ocean Emperor Province. Hualala. This Emperor Province was especially special. It was like a silver sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. From time to time, waves would sweep up, as if a metal storm was beating against the shore. A loud sound rang out. The surface of the sea seemed to have been cut by a giant sword that reached the heavens, splitting it into two. Then, the aura of an immortal emperor overflowed, cutting through the past, present, and future. Immortal Emperor Xingqiong, Master has come out of seclusion. He invites you for a chat. Tang San arrived, and his vigorous voice spread to every corner of Star Ocean Emperor Province. I understand. Immortal Emperor Xingqiong appeared on the surface of the sea. His cold eyes pierced through the heavens, shaking the ages. The long river of time was in chaos at this moment. Above the heavens, Darkness Emperor Province. This Emperor Province was formed from countless islands filled with gloomy energy. Countless experts resided on each island. Truly a rare guest. The moment Chen Nan appeared, above the largest island, Immortal Emperor He Wu appeared. Immortal Emperor might seeped out, making one feel intimidated at first glance. Master invites you in. Chen Nan was concise. After saying this, he disappeared without a trace. Above the heavens, World Creation Emperor Province. Inside Emperor Province, in a great hall, a white-haired elder dressed in a long robe sat at the head of the table. His aura was restrained, looking like an ordinary elder, but for some reason, he gave off a type of pressure that made one unable to resist. It was precisely World Creation Immortal Emperor. World Creation Old Man, Master has come out of seclusion. He wants you to go see him. Sun Wukong directly appeared in the great hall with the golden cudgel in hand. What is it? World Creation Immortal Emperor frowned. You'll know when you go. Sun Wukong then said, if you don't go, I don't mind sparring with you. When he heard Sun Wukong's threatening words, World Creation Immortal Emperor's expression became incomparably ugly, but he also felt helpless. Chapter 796. 2,000,000 years had passed, and he had only just stepped into the 7 Stars realm. Yet, the other party had already stepped into the 9 Stars realm, reaching the level of Yuan Emperor. When Sun Wukong, Zhu Baji, and the others reached the 7 Stars realm, they all came to find him to spar to repay the imprisonment battle back then. Every battle he fought ended in a crushing defeat. Hong Jun and Hun Kuan want to go too. After all, they have also entered the Immortal Emperor realm. Sun Wukong added and left after saying that. Nether Big Region, 1 Yuan Emperor State. Above the lush Sky Peak Mountain, a man in a purple robe stood with his hands behind his back, gazing in the direction of the sky above. At that moment, a figure appeared. Brother Lin, why are you here? Emperor Yuan asked. Master has come out of seclusion and is inviting all the immortal emperors of the All Heavens Big Region to come. Thank you. Emperor Yuan disappeared. Yuan Tian Pavilion. Yuan Emperor, Luo Feng of the All Heavens shop is here to visit. Luo Feng spoke, and a plainly dressed elder appeared. Brother Luo, you and I are already standing at the same height. There's no need to be so polite. Yuan Emperor's voice was filled with vicissitudes. The Tianluo clan invaded the All Heavens shop, and you were willing to help at the critical moment. This is a favor. Luo Feng spoke, treating Yuan Emperor as if he was an elder. As expected of the disciple of the owner of the All Heavens shop, Yuan Emperor laughed, his face filled with gratification. Master has come out of seclusion. I'm here to invite you over for a chat. Luo Feng continued. Great. Yuan Emperor was overjoyed to hear that Chu Bei had come out of seclusion. At that moment, all the immortal emperors of the All Heavens big region received invitations from the great beings of the All Heavens shop. Have you heard? The owner of the All Heavens shop has come out of seclusion. Of course. It's been 2 million years since he wiped out the Qianluo clan. He summoned all the immortal emperors of the big regions as soon as he came out of seclusion. I wonder what he wants to do. If you're curious, you can go to the Emperor State of the All Heavens shop and find out. Not long after, the All Heavens big region became bustling with heated discussions. As more and more immortal emperors appeared above the Emperor province, the immortal emperor's might that permeated the air reached a terrifying level. As far as the eye could see, there were thousands of immortal emperors. Do any of you know why the owner of the All Heavens shop has summoned us here? It's probably because of the ancient clans that escaped from the origin realm. Don't worry, you'll know soon enough. The group of immortal emperors communicated with their divine consciousness. Everyone's eyes were focused on the All Heavens shop in the center of Emperor District. Buzz, at this moment, a buzzing sound that sounded like a great bell rang out in the sky. In the next moment, Chu Bei walked out from the ripples above the All Heavens shop. Behind Chu Bei were Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, Chen Nan, Tang San, Shahao and the other personal disciples. As expected of the strongest force in the Grand Heavens domains, this battle formation is truly terrifying. The group of immortal emperors couldn't help but tremble when they saw Chu Bei, Xiao Yang, and the others. Even the weakest of these personal disciples had reached the Seven Stars realm, not to mention the owner of the All Heavens shop who had single-handedly destroyed the Qianluo clan with unfathomable strength. Owner of the All Heavens shop, may I know why you've summoned us here? After a long while, Emperor Yuan was the first to ask Chu Bei. To help you break through. Chu Bei's voice was calm, but it instantly set off a great commotion. Owner of the All Heavens shop, are you sure you want to help us break through? Emperor Yuan was astonished as if he couldn't believe Chu Bei's words. His cultivation had reached the peak of the 9 stars of the first realm of the Emperor realm. Before Chu Bei appeared, he was the strongest person in the great domain of chaos and also ranked first on the Immortal Emperor ranking board. He had been stuck in this realm for countless years. Before Chu Bei and the Origin realm appeared, he had doubted whether the path of cultivation had come to an end. Being at the peak of the First Heaven's Emperor realm, if he wanted to break through again, the word difficult would not be enough to describe it. Even Chu Bei's personal disciples like Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, and Tang San, these monsters who had risen later, had also remained at this level. They no longer showed any signs of breaking through. Owner of the All Heavens shop, you've summoned us. Everyone here has reached the Immortal Emperor realm. At our level, can we really break through with the help of others? The other immortal emperors sent out their divine consciousnesses. Like Emperor Yuan, they couldn't believe that Chu Bei had such an ability. Chu Bei glanced at the immortal emperors around him. With a wave of his right hand, a black brick and a golden disc appeared. That's the Origin Emperor weapon of the All Heavens shop. What's the other one? The group of immortal emperors recognized the golden disc at a glance, but when they looked at the Origin tools list, they revealed confused expressions. Under the gazes of countless immortal emperors, the Origin Emperor weapon catalogue and the golden disc rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, they occupied the entire sky above the All Heavens shop. Buzz buzz. Wisps of faint purple light shot out from the Origin Emperor weapon catalogue and the golden disc, creating ripples that spread out in all directions. In an instant, the faint purple light formed a huge circular barrier that enveloped the entire All Heavens shop, including all the immortal emperors present. This is the aura of the Origin realm. What pure Origin aura? Vaguely, my bottleneck seems to be loosening. The immortal emperors, including Emperor Yuan, were first stunned when they sensed the energy contained within the faint purple light. Then, their faces lit up with joy. Before the Origin realm appeared, the natural conditions of the Chaos multiverse would no longer have any effect on their cultivation once they reached the immortal Emperor realm. Since then, their cultivation relied solely on origin stones, and they could only further their cultivation by extracting the energy within origin stones. When the 9 doors in the origin realm had fallen off, a small amount of origin aura had leaked out. This was the first time they had truly sensed origin aura. Although it was sparse, it was still tens of thousands of times purer than the energy within origin stones. Even so, the amount of origin aura that leaked out was too little, and it was not of much help to their cultivation. However, the Genesis aura they sensed was 100 times or even 1,000 times purer than the aura from the 9 doors. Moreover, it was even more abundant. I'm sure all of you know that the fundamental difference between the multiverse and the origin realm lies in origin aura. Chu Bei's gaze swept over the group of immortal emperors. Finally, his gaze landed on Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, and the other personal disciples. The reason why all of you are unable to make a breakthrough is because you lack this essence aura. The origin aura in the multiverse is unable to provide you with the conditions to break through. Chapter 797. At this point, Chu Bei pointed at the origin tool chart and the golden disk in the sky. I'll provide you with the external conditions. Whether you can break through or not will depend on your luck. We won't disappoint you, Master. Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, Chen Nan, and the others responded in unison. Xiao Yang's group sat down cross-legged after the powerful voice sounded. They absorbed the abundant source aura around them and entered a training state. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, Genesis Immortal Emperor, and the other immortal emperors looked at each other and immediately began to cultivate. They couldn't miss out on such an opportunity. Time passed. For the first time in hundreds of millions of years, all the immortal emperors gathered in the Chaos Heavens. They gathered in the Emperor District of the All Heavens shop. Everyone was wrapped in a faint purple light, accompanied by immortal emperor power. Their auras were restrained to the extreme. They were cultivating, inhaling, and exhaling pure origin energy. In the first 100,000 years, Desolate Immortal Emperor, Xinghai Immortal Emperor, Heiwu Immortal Emperor, and the others successfully entered the first Emperor realm. In the second 100,000 years, Genesis Immortal Emperor, Yu Yuan Immortal Emperor, and the others entered the first Emperor realm. In the first million years, Yuan Di broke through, and a mysterious space enveloped him. The origin heaven space, the symbol of the second Emperor realm, because he had been stuck in this realm for the longest time and had pure origin energy, he naturally became the first immortal emperor to break through among all the first Emperor realm 9 stars immortal emperor. Of course, other than the ancient races from the origin world portal, he was the second martial emperor level expert in the primal chaos after Chu Bei. Even though he broke through, Yuan Di still didn't open his eyes. He continued to cultivate endlessly as if he was possessed. In the second million years, Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, Yi Fan, Tang San, and the other personal disciples' bottlenecks loosened one after another. In the third million years, Chu Bei's 16 personal disciples all entered the second Emperor realm. At the end of the fourth million years, in the northwest direction of the Chaos Heavens, a dazzling divine light bloomed, and several figures appeared in the distant sky. With just a beam of light, these figures seemed to pierce through billions of stars and see everything that happened in the Emperor District of the All Heavens shop. In the next moment, these figures appeared outside the Emperor District of the All Heavens shop. They were all wearing the same white robes, and there was a golden feather printed on the chest of their robes. Terrifying immortal emperor energy flowed around them. They are one of the 9 ancient races that escaped from the origin realm. Look at their clothes. They are from the primordial winged clan. Since all the immortal emperors from the great domains of chaos were gathered in the Emperor province of the All Heavens shop, the quasi-immortal emperors from other domains naturally gathered outside the Emperor province of the All Heavens shop all year round out of curiosity. At this time, when they saw the feather race experts appear, they were all shocked. Since the 9 doors had left the origin world and descended upon the Chaos Heavens, the primordial clans within the doors had never left the doors, let alone show themselves in the Chaos Heavens. Pure origin energy. He can actually create origin aura. What's more, it's such a vast and abundant origin aura. How is this possible? What the hell is that? Outside the Emperor province of the All Heavens shop, the Feather Race Immortal Emperors stared blankly at the golden disc and the Origin Tool catalog with disbelief. If we can obtain those two treasures, does that mean we can return to the Origin world? An Immortal Emperor's face glowed brightly, his eyes burning with passion. Don't tell me you're thinking of snatching them. You're crazy. Another Feather Race Immortal Emperor hurriedly said, have you forgotten how the owner of the All Heavens shop wiped out the Qianluo clan by himself? I'm afraid he's at least a 2-star or 4-star emperor. Let's go back and report this to the Patriarch. The group of Feather Race experts disappeared at the same time. Another 1,000,000 years passed. With a buzz, the golden disc and the Origin Tool catalog vibrated at the same time and stopped releasing Origin aura. Then, the faint purple light that enveloped the All Heavens shop in the Emperor province disappeared. Then, all the Immortal Emperors, including Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, Tang San, Yi Fan, and the others, slowly opened their eyes. It would be great if we could cultivate endlessly. The Empress under the moon stood up and swayed her waist as she sighed. I'm already very satisfied with breaking through 4 stars. Immortal Emperor He Wu was overjoyed as he looked at Chu Bei with gratitude in his eyes. Quick, look. The Immortal Emperors have come out of seclusion. Their auras are becoming more and more unfathomable. Outside the All Heavens shop in the Emperor province, countless quasi-immortal emperors spoke one after another. Owner of the All Heavens shop, thank you for your help. Emperor Yuan appeared in front of Chu Bei and cupped his fists. Seeing this, the other immortal emperors also cupped their fists and expressed their gratitude. At this moment, even the immortal emperors who had conflicts with Chu Bei expressed their heartfelt gratitude. Chu Bei glanced at the immortal emperors around him and nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Boom! At this moment, 9 incomparably powerful energy fluctuations surged out from the chaotic All Heavens. These energy fluctuations were located in 9 corners of the All Heavens, each occupying a large region. Emperor Yuan, Immortal Emperor Heng Shu, and the other Immortal Emperor's expressions changed drastically when they sensed these 9 energy auras. It's the ancient races from the Origin realm's 9 portals. What are they doing? The Immortal Emperors looked in 9 different directions, each corresponding to the direction of the 9 enormous energy fluctuations. They are here. Emperor Yuan's eyes narrowed as his expression turned grave. Just as Emperor Yuan finished speaking, 9 enormous energy fluctuations appeared around the All Heavens shop in the Emperor province, each occupying an area of the void. Ripples spread out as several figures appeared from the 9 energy fluctuations, each representing a faction. Owner of the All Heavens shop, do you know where they came from? They all descended from the Origin realm. Emperor Yuan looked at Chu Bei and said. Millimeter. Chu Bei nodded in response. His expression did not change at all because of the appearance of these 9 factions. Unlike Chu Bei, the other immortal emperors frowned when they saw these 9 factions, their eyes filled with vigilance. The figures in these 9 factions were all immortal emperors, especially the leader. The emperor aura that surged out from him gave them a sense of oppression. This was an absolute suppression of strength. You guys have never shown yourselves ever since you left the Origin realm. Why are you here now? Emperor Yuan glanced at the 9 factions and asked indifferently. It has nothing to do with you. The leader of one of the factions said calmly. He did not even look at Emperor Yuan when he spoke. His gaze was fixed on Chu Bei from beginning to end. As soon as he finished speaking, the leader of this faction pointed at the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disc in the distant sky and said to Chu Bei, "Can you tell me what they are?" Almost at the same time, the immortal emperors of the other 8 factions looked hopeful as they waited for Chu Bei's answer. Chapter 798. Chu Bei's face was expressionless. With a single thought, the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disc simultaneously turned into streaks of light that disappeared into his forehead. Who are you? Why should I answer your question? Chu Bei's voice was indifferent. I am the Patriarch of the Harpies, and I have witnessed the strength of the owner of the All Heavens shop. The Harpies Patriarch looked at Chu Bei in an extremely polite manner. Our clan used to live in the Origin realm, but because the Genesis Chi here grew thinner and thinner, we were forced to leave the origin realm. When I saw the two mysterious objects that the owner of the All Heavens shop possessed, I was very curious about how they could provide us with an endless supply of Genesis Chi. The Harpies patriarch cupped his fists. I wonder if the owner of the All Heavens shop is willing to provide us with Genesis Chi so that we can return to the origin realm. The Harpies will definitely repay this kindness generously. Is that your goal as well? Chu Bei did not immediately respond to the Harpies patriarch's question. Instead, he glanced at the other 8 factions. I hope that the owner of the All Heavens shop can help us. The leaders of the other 8 factions nodded in unison. If that's the case, then you can all return. I have no obligation to do so. Chu Bei shook his head and waved his hand. The reason he had helped the 9 Netherbird clan back then was because he needed their help. Currently, he didn't have any interactions with these 9 forces. Most importantly, he knew too little about the origin realm and the factions within it. He had no idea which of these factions would become his enemies in the future. The owner of the All Heavens shop, I hope that you can consider this carefully. The expressions of the leaders of the 9 factions darkened when they heard Chu Bei's words. If you're not a customer, I won't keep you. Chu Bei waved his hand again. Your actions will incur our wrath, the Harpies patriarch said. Are you threatening me? Chu Bei looked at the Harpies patriarch coldly. If you represent your clan, I don't mind turning you into the second Qianluo clan. Hearing the indifferent voice and meeting Chu Bei's cold gaze, the Feather Clan leader's expression instantly turned ugly. He didn't say anything, only snorting coldly. His strength was roughly the same as that of the Qianluo clan leader. He was also at the peak of the Second Realm and Third Star Martial Emperor realm. His breakthrough was still far away. He had once personally witnessed the battle between Tianhai and Chu Bei, so he naturally did not believe that Tianhai's words were a threat. Owner of All Heavens shop, you are indeed very strong to be able to step into the 4-star realm. However, don't think that no one has walked further on the path of cultivation than you. At this moment, the leader of the other group spoke. Even if there is, it's definitely not you. Chu Bei looked at the person who spoke and laughed coldly. His tone was filled with disdain. Among the 9 forces, the most powerful one was on par with the Qianluo clan back then. The leaders were all at the peak of the Second Realm and the Third Realm. With his current strength, he didn't need to fear these 9 factions even if he didn't rely on the Origin Tool Catalog and the Golden Disc. Owner of All Heavens shop, although you are stronger than us, there are some things that you don't understand. The Feather Clan leader spoke again. Could it be that you really believe that the Qianluo clan's experts are all dead? If their ancestors can return, I'm afraid that you will be consigned to eternal damnation. If you can help us return to the origin realm now, we might be able to help you if that day really comes. Chu Bei was slightly taken aback by the Feather Clan leader's words. Just as he had guessed, the origin realm, which was independent of the primal chaos realms, hid a secret that very few people knew about. There's no need for you to worry about my matters. Chu Bei's decision did not change. He remained unmoved and waved his hand, dismissing the 9 forces. If there really came a day when he was in danger, he didn't think that these forces would be able to help him. During the battle with the Qianluo clan, the 9 Netherbird clan experts had only offered a few words of advice. In the end, they had only been spectators. Owner of All Heavens shop, are you sure you don't want to reconsider? Not only the Feather Clan leader, but the leaders of the other 8 forces also took a step forward and stared coldly at Chu Bei. If you don't leave, I don't mind sending you away by force. Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and a huge ripple instantly spread out. A fair and tender baby wandered in the ripple, and a terrifying emperor aura filled the air. When they sensed Chu Bei's aura fluctuation, the leaders of the 9 forces looked at each other. In the end, they all snorted coldly, and their eyes were filled with unwillingness. A moment later, the 9 forces disappeared one after another. Owner of All Heavens shop, I'm afraid these guys won't let this go. Yuan Di and Immortal Emperor Heng Shu glanced in the direction where the 9 powerful energy fluctuations had disappeared and said to Chu Bei faintly, "So what?" Chu Bei's voice was calm as his gaze landed on Yuan Di. "How much do you know about that calamity?" Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, not only Yuan Di, but all the immortal emperors above the first stage 7-star were stunned. As for the immortal emperors below the first stage 7-star, they were curious and expectant. They had only heard of the calamity countless epochs ago, but they didn't know the root cause. Owner of all heaven's shop, with your strength, you should know more than us, Yuan Di probed. Chu Bei shook his head. My memory seems to be a little incomplete. I don't have any memories of that calamity in my sea of consciousness. His memory was incomplete. This was what the golden disc had said to him. Could it have been erased by someone? Yuan Di, immortal Emperor Heng Shu, and the others looked at each other in shock. Chu Bei didn't reply. He only shook his head. Could it be that you participated in that calamity as well? Yuan Di made a bold guess. Tell me what you know, Chu Bei said indifferently. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze and the other immortal emperor's gazes, Yuan Di hesitated for a moment before sighing. That was a terrifying battle between immortal emperors. Countless immortal emperors died. Those immortal emperors were so powerful that I couldn't even muster up the will to resist. Yuan Di's eyes were filled with reminiscence. That battle seemed to have happened suddenly. I don't know the reason. At that time, I was only a 3rd-star immortal emperor. I didn't even have the right to enter the battlefield. That calamity lasted for several epochs. Although they each opened up a new space-time battlefield, they still destroyed countless large domains and formed the so-called lost domains. Countless immortal emperors died, but their corpses were nowhere to be found. By the end of the battle, those immortal emperors were nowhere to be found. The strongest immortal emperors left in the All Heaven's great domains were only 3rd-star immortal emperors. Heng Shu, Gui Yuan, and I became the strongest immortal emperors in the All Heaven's great domains. After that, the All Heaven's great domains went through a period of peace. During this period of peace, we continued to cultivate and pursue the path of cultivation. Chapter 799. Until one day, the peace was broken. All the immortal emperors of that time were summoned by a mysterious force. We gathered in a space and waited for the mysterious force to appear. However, no one came even after a long time. Just when we were at a loss, a voice appeared in our sea of consciousness. That voice told us not to search for the truth of that calamity. At that time, an immortal emperor questioned that mysterious force, but what he received was a destructive punishment. In just an instant, that immortal emperor's soul dissipated without a trace. After witnessing that force's methods, none of us dared to ask again. We could only do as we were told. Later on, we followed their instructions and established the immortal emperor ranking battle. At this point, Yuan Di looked at immortal emperor Heng Shu, immortal emperor Gui Yuan, and the others and said, as for the cause of that calamity, we don't know either. Battle of immortal emperors? Mysterious force. Chu Bei frowned. Did that voice appear again? Yes. Yuan Di nodded. Every once in a while, right before the start of the immortal emperor ranking battles, this mysterious force would gather us together and that voice would appear. Is this mysterious power you speak of from the origin world? Asked Chu Bei. I don't know. Yuan Di shook his head. Owner of all heaven's shop, with your strength, that mysterious force will definitely gather you when it appears again. At this moment, immortal Emperor Heng Shu added. That better be the case. Chu Bei nodded. Is that all? Chu Bei asked again. He didn't get any substantial information from Yuan Di's words. Yuan Di and immortal Emperor Heng Shu were silent and shook their heads. Sect Master, with your help, my cultivation has broken through to Emperor Realm 2. At the same time, the seals on my inherited memories have all been unsealed. I know a little about that calamity, even going back to before the appearance of the great regions of chaos. At this moment, the ancient dragon Phoenix walked up to Chu Bei with a respectful expression. As soon as the ancient dragon Phoenix's voice fell, Yuan Emperor, Heng Shu Immortal Emperor, Yi Fan, Shahao, and the other immortal emperor's eyes instantly focused on the ancient dragon Phoenix. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Like the Tian Luo clan, the Nine Netherworld clan, and the Feather clan, the ancient dragon Phoenix clan was also an ancient clan. In fact, They were even more ancient than the former. Tell me about it. Chu Bei turned to look at the ancient dragon phoenix. Before the primal chaos great domain was born, the so-called origin of the world originated from the 18 origin tools. These 18 origin tools were mysterious to the extreme and contained boundless power. Even the weakest origin tool has the strength of a second-level emperor. They joined forces to create the great domain of the chaos heavens, left behind the cultivation method, and created countless experts. However, as the strength of these experts became more and more frightening, they began to set their sights on origin tools. However, the origin tools did not appear in the world. Even the most powerful immortal emperors could not find them, let alone control them. Since the primal chaos great domain was just formed, there were abundant cultivation resources. Those top immortal emperors developed their talents to the extreme and created 3 levels above the immortal emperor realm. They were the first emperor realm, second emperor realm, and third emperor realm. At that time, the immortal emperors who set their sights on the origin tools were all third-level immortal emperors. The ancient dragon phoenix spoke slowly according to the inherited memories. After countless years of searching, the most powerful third-level immortal emperors still could not find the origin tools. However, they found another mysterious item. It was called the Origin Tool Catalog. This Origin Tool Catalog was like a map. It clearly marked the locations of the 18 origin tools. Moreover, other than the first 2 origin tools, the remaining 16 origin tools were all ranked according to their strength. After finding the origin tool catalog, the third-level immortal emperors began to plan to hunt for the origin tools. Above the all-heaven shop, all the immortal emperors, including Chu Bei, listened carefully to the ancient dragon phoenix's narration of the inherited memories. Ever since the third-level immortal emperors obtained the origin tool catalog, they planned to hunt for the origin tools according to the strength of the origin tools. The location of the origin tools was indeed as the origin tool catalog indicated. After a fierce battle, those immortal emperors obtained the 18th ranked origin tools. Although the hunt for the origin tools was successful, the issue of ownership caused a conflict, which led to an internal battle between the third-level immortal emperors. That battle lasted for several epochs and ended in failure. In order not to affect the hunt, the third-level immortal emperors made an agreement to wait until all the origin tools were hunted before deciding the ownership of the origin tools. The hunt for the origin tools lasted for countless epochs. At first, the third-level immortal emperors could hunt successfully on their first try. However, from the 10th origin tool onwards, their mission became much more difficult. They became accustomed to failure. The reason for this was that from the 10th origin tool onwards, the latter's strength had reached the third-level immortal emperors. Although the mission became more difficult, the third-level immortal emperors were also third-level immortal emperors. After many missions, they were still able to hunt successfully. When the third-level immortal emperors set their sights on the 7th-ranked origin tool, not only did the hunt not succeed, but they also lost an immortal emperor. That was the first time that one of their companions had died in a hunting operation. It was also from then on that they became more cautious. However, the 7th-ranked origin tool's strength had already exceeded their hunting range. After losing another companion, they chose to give up, not to mention the other 6 origin tools that were even more powerful. They didn't even have the courage to search for them. The hunt was temporarily suspended, and the third-level immortal emperors began to discuss the ownership of the origin tools. However, due to the small number of origin tools and the large number of immortal emperors, it led to another battle for the position of immortal emperor. That battle continued for several epochs. It was only when the catastrophe arrived that they stopped fighting. When they heard this, especially when the primordial dragon phoenix mentioned the word catastrophe, all the immortal emperors' gazes froze. Their auras were restrained to the extreme, and their divine strings were faintly tense. It was an indescribably terrifying battle. It was a battle between 2 mysterious items. To be precise, it was a battle between 2 origin tools that were ranked side by side on the origin tool list. The only thing that wasn't labeled was the strength of the 2 origin tools. In that battle, although the 2 top-tier origin tools were independent of the chaotic heavens, just the aftershock of the battle almost destroyed the entire chaotic heavens. It's strange. The stronger the person, the more painful it was under the aftershock of the battle. In particular, the third-level immortal emperors were all in extreme pain. No matter how they used their supreme divine powers, they couldn't resist that power. Chapter 800. The battle between the two origin tools lasted for hundreds of millions of years. The immortal emperors of the three realms of Emperor also suffered for hundreds of millions of years, until one day, the two origin tools finally stopped fighting. No one knew the result of the battle between them. Since then, no one had seen them again. Even the origin tool chart did not have their location and whereabouts. It was as if they had suddenly disappeared. Gradually, peace returned to the chaotic heavens for a period of time. However, when the next epoch arrived, there was a change in the origin tool catalog. The third-ranked origin tool suddenly descended on the chaotic heavens and began to slaughter all the immortal emperors of the chaotic heaven. Although the third origin tool was not as powerful as the first two origin tools, it was still unimaginably terrifying. Even if all the immortal emperors of the three realms of Emperor joined forces, they could not suppress it. That was also the day of the catastrophe. Under the destructive attack of the third origin tool, the immortal emperors died one after another. What's even more frightening is that the third origin tool can actually use the dead immortal emperors to attack the living immortal emperors. Although those emperor corpses had lost their souls, their strength was not reduced when they were alive. Later on, the third origin tool did not attack personally. Instead, it watched as the living immortal emperors of the chaotic heavens fought with the dead emperor corpses as if it was watching a show. As the battle continued, more and more immortal emperors died and became emperor corpses, becoming puppets of the third origin tool. In the end, the surviving immortal emperors realized the danger and began to think of a solution. Fortunately, the third origin tool disappeared. Unfortunately, those emperor corpses were still there. They seemed to have received orders from the third origin tool and would not stop until they killed all the immortal emperors. After a few more years, the surviving immortal emperors jointly opened up a space-time battlefield that was independent of the chaotic heavens. No one knows the location of that space-time battlefield. At that time, they used themselves as bait to lure away those emperor corpses in exchange for peace in the chaotic heavens. The primordial dragon Phoenix paused. In that catastrophe, 90% of the immortal emperors in the chaos multiverse disappeared. Some died and became emperor corpses, while others fought against the emperor corpses in some unknown space-time battlefield. Although the disappearance of the immortal emperors brought peace to the all heavens, it also exhausted all of the Genesis Chi. Sect Master, this is everything I know. With that, the primordial dragon Phoenix bowed to Chu Bei. Chu Bei frowned. Is it reliable? My ancestor was one of the third realm immortal emperors who participated in the origin tool hunt, the ancient dragon Phoenix replied. Chu Bei nodded slightly and communicated with the golden disc at the first moment. Yuan Emperor, Heng Shu Celestial Emperor, Gui Yuan Celestial Emperor, and the other celestial emperors were stunned when they heard the primordial dragon Phoenix's words. They looked at each other in shock. This was a secret that they had never known. Where is that space-time battlefield? Is the battle still ongoing? How many of the third realm immortal emperors survived? Where are the 18 origin tools? The celestial emperors muttered to themselves. The primordial dragon Phoenix's inheritance memories contained too much information and they needed time to digest it. At this moment, Chu Bei was talking to the devil fruit tree. Due to the incomplete memories, the tree could not confirm the accuracy of the primordial dragon Phoenix's inheritance memories. However, from what little memories it had, at least the 18 origin tools and the origin tool chart overlapped. The primordial dragon Phoenix's inheritance memories were very reliable. The origin tool hunt that you mentioned earlier, which immortal emperors started to lose their companions after they hunted down the origin tool? Chu Bei suddenly thought of something and stared intently at the primordial dragon Phoenix. The seventh origin tool on the origin tool chart. After the primordial dragon Phoenix answered Chu Bei's question, confusion appeared on its face as if it did not understand why Chu Bei cared about this. After receiving confirmation, Chu Bei frowned and his expression became serious. Back then, the golden disc had told him that Mu Xuer'er could still be revived and that the origin tool that could revive her was the seventh origin tool. When he received this information, Chu Bei had thought that once the origin tool chart completely recovered and revealed the location of the seventh origin tool, he would immediately go and ask it to revive Mu Xuer'er. If it was unwilling, he would force it to revive Mu Xuer'er. However, after listening to the primordial dragon phoenix's explanation, Chu Bei realized that forcing it would not work. After all, many Third Realm Immortal Emperors were unable to subdue the seventh origin tool even if they worked together, let alone his current Fourth Realm Immortal Emperor cultivation. Sect Master, what are you thinking about? Sensing Chu Bei's expression, the primordial dragon phoenix could not help but ask. Nothing. Chu Bei shook his head and glanced at the Origin the Arch, Heng Shu, and the other immortal emperors. I can only help you up to this point. You can all leave. Thank you. The immortal emperors once again cupped their fists at Chu Bei and disappeared. In an instant, only the All Heavens Shop's experts were left in the sky above the Emperor District. After that day, the Chaos Great Heavens returned to its usual peace. The 9 forces that had left the Origin realm never appeared again. All the immortal emperors, including the Origin the Arch and immortal Emperor Heng Shu, continued to cultivate in seclusion. As for Chu Bei, he also repeatedly attempted to break through the barrier of the 5-star realm, hoping to make another breakthrough. Although he failed every time, he was pleasantly surprised that the inscriptions on the Origin tool chart became clearer. This peace lasted for 3 million years. Until a new round of the Immortal Emperor ranking battle began in the Chaos Great Heavens. For this Immortal Emperor ranking battle, all the Immortal Emperors unanimously decided to fight in the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop. To be precise, it was a world battlefield that Chu Bei had constructed in the sky above the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop. Looking from the outside, the world battlefield above the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop was surging with majestic Emperor energy ripples. It was filled with boundless Origin energy aura. Stars revolved around it, and the Milky Way surged. Chu Bei had constructed the Origin source law in this world battlefield. It could withstand the aftermath of a battle between immortal emperors below the 2-stars Emperor realm. Because the world battlefield was located above the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop, the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop had become even more lively in recent days. Today, apart from the original residents of the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop, everyone who came from the outside exuded powerful auras. The weakest among them had the strength of a Third Heaven quasi-immortal emperor. As for those below the Third Heaven quasi-immortal emperor realm, they were very tactful. They stayed in the Emperor District near the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop to watch the entire immortal emperor battle. Chapter 801. Rumble. With a loud bang, a square battle stage made of an unknown type of emperor metal appeared in the world battlefield. Clang. A buzzing sound could be heard. The sound of a bell could be heard. In an instant, it filled the sky and swept through the entire chaotic great heavens. It was also at this moment that ripples appeared above the square battle stage, emitting the aura of an immortal emperor. In the center of the ripples, thousands of exquisite and luxurious chairs appeared and floated around the square battle stage. After cultivating in seclusion for so many years, I can finally stretch my muscles and bones. Yes, I've waited for this day for too long. At this moment, 2 powerful voices sounded in everyone's ears. In the next moment, 2 figures landed on the 2 chairs around the square battle stage. It's Emperor Yuan and Immortal Emperor Heng Shu. The first and second place of the previous Immortal Emperor ranking board. The memory of their battle is still fresh in my mind. Look. Another Immortal Emperor is here. Just as everyone's gaze fell on Emperor Yuan and Immortal Emperor Heng Shu, another figure appeared on one of the chairs. The moment that figure appeared, golden light filled the air and the sound of an emperor echoed. The third place is Immortal Emperor Gui Yuan. In the midst of the discussion, immortal emperors sat down one after another. Whether it was immortal emperors ranked on the Immortal Emperor ranking board or not, all of them had arrived without exception. Now, only the immortal emperors of the All Heavens Shop are left. Yuan Di said indifferently as he looked at the remaining 56 empty seats. In terms of the number of immortal emperors, the All Heavens shop was already number 1. As of now, including Chu Bei, there were already 56 immortal emperors in the sect. Among them, there were already 18 immortal emperors who had entered the second emperor realm. Among the remaining 38 immortal emperors, there were 7 immortal emperors at the peak of the first emperor realm, led by Hong Meng. They were only one step away from entering the second emperor realm. They are here. At this moment, immortal Emperor Heng Shu seemed to have noticed something and raised his head slightly to look ahead. Within the ripples, several figures appeared. The one in the lead was Chu Bei. Behind Chu Bei were 17 people. Apart from Yi Fan, Xiao Yang, Tang San, Shi Hao, and the other 16 personal disciples, there was also the ancient dragon phoenix, all of them immortal emperors who had already entered the Emperor Level 2 realm. After that, it was Hong Meng and the other 38 people. The owner of All Heavens business. Seeing Chu Bei's arrival, all the immortal emperors stood up from their chairs and greeted him with cupped fists. Did that voice appear? Chu Bei nodded slightly at the group of immortal emperors before his gaze landed on Emperor Yuan. No. Emperor Yuan knew what Chu Bei was referring to and shook his head. Hearing this, Chu Bei frowned. If that's the case, then let the immortal emperors battle begin. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and Gui Yuan exchanged a glance and nodded. After Yuan Di announced the rules of the battle as usual, the immortal emperor ranking battle officially began. This immortal emperor ranking battle lasted for 100,000 years. As expected, Chu Bei was at the top of the list. However, the second to the 17th place were all Chu Bei's personal disciples. Since Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, and the others did not have a clear victor, the final ranking was based on the order in which they entered Chu Bei's tutelage. Xiao Yang was second, Chen Nan was third, Tang San was fourth. Biyu Xian was 15th, Bing Tongtong was 16th, and Long Lin was 17th. As for Yuan Di, who was first in the previous round, he was ranked 18th. The ancient dragon phoenix was 19, Heng Shu immortal emperor was 20, Gui Yuan immortal emperor was 21, and Hong Meng was 22. After the immortal emperor ranking battle ended, the experts of the Great Primal Chaos once again recognized the All Heavens business's strength as they looked at the top 100 rankings in the sky above the world battlefield. The All Heavens business occupied 18 of the top 20 rankings. The All Heavens business occupied 40 of the top 50 rankings. The All Heavens business occupied 56 of the top 100 rankings, which was the number of immortal emperors in the All Heavens business. In other words, all the immortal emperors in the All Heavens business had entered the rankings in this new round of Immortal Emperor ranking battle. After the Immortal Emperor ranking battle ended, the Great Primal Chaos Heavens regained its peace. The owner of the All Heavens business, that voice has appeared. However, 10,000 years after the Immortal Emperor ranking battle, Yuan Di, Heng Shu Immortal Emperor, Gui Yuan Immortal Emperor, and the others sent a message to Chu Bei at the same time. Before Chu Bei could respond, he sensed a surging source power undulation. Immediately after, a huge space formed above the All Heavens Origin Emperor Pavilion. The source heaven space. Chu Bei immediately said when he sensed the energy undulations in the space. It was a mysterious space that could only be controlled when one's cultivation reached the Emperor Stage 2. Chu Bei's divine thought moved and appeared in this space in an instant. When Chu Bei arrived, there were already several figures in the space. Yuan Di, Heng Shu Immortal Emperor, and Gui Yuan Immortal Emperor were among them. Master, you're here too. At this moment, Xiao Yang, Shi Hao, Tang San, the ancient dragon phoenix, and the others also entered. They immediately bowed towards Chu Bei. The owner of that voice still hasn't appeared. But now, I can finally see through this space. One thing is for sure, he has reached the Emperor Stage 2. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and Gui Yuan looked at each other and spoke one after another. Now that they had also reached the Emperor Stage 2, they naturally understood this mysterious space that they did not understand before. When they were still at the Emperor Stage, they felt completely suppressed and powerless in the other party's source heaven space. And now, they also had their own source heaven spaces outside their bodies, which counteracted the suppression brought by the all heaven space. You guys actually broke through. 21 Emperor Stage 2. How is this possible? Terrifying. At this moment, 3 voices filled with shock rang out in the all-heaven space. Show yourself. Chu Bei seemed to sense something and calmly looked in a certain direction. How did you guys break through in this epoch without Genesis Chi? A middle-aged man in a golden robe appeared. His gaze landed on Yuan Di with a puzzled expression. You're the one who spoke for countless epochs. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and the others sized up the man in golden robes and asked. The man in golden robes nodded. Although I was born countless epochs before you, you guys have already reached the Emperor Stage 2. The path of cultivation is only about cultivation. You can already talk to me face to face. Who exactly are you? Yuan Di said. Although you guys did not participate in that calamity battle, you witnessed it. The man in golden robes swept his gaze across Yuan Di and Heng Shu. The battle is still ongoing. What's the situation now? Yuan Di immediately asked. The man in golden robes shook his head. It's not optimistic. Chapter 802. The golden-robed man continued. The number of immortal emperors on our side is decreasing, while the number of emperor corpses is increasing. Once all of our experts turn into emperor corpses, the great heavens and all the other planes will be destroyed. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and the others frowned when they heard the golden-robed man's words. Chu Bei, Xiao Yang, and the others also wore grave expressions. Where is the battlefield? At this moment, Chu Bei asked. The golden-robed man glanced at Chu Bei and was slightly taken aback. He then looked at Yuan Di with a questioning gaze. In his memory, he had no impression of Chu Bei. This is the owner of the All Heavens shop and the current first place on the Immortal Emperor ranking board, said Yuan Di. The golden-robed man sized up Chu Bei again and said, I didn't see you the last time I came, but now you're the first place on the Immortal Emperor ranking board. How did you cultivate? The owner of the All Heavens shop is a little special. His memories are a little incomplete, but his strength is unquestionable. According to our guess, he should be an expert who participated in that calamity, said Heng Shu. Impossible. The golden-robed man shook his head. I have an impression of all the immortal emperors who participated in that calamity, whether they are still alive or have become emperor corpses. He is not among them. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, Gui Yuan, and the other immortal emperors were stunned. Chu Bei's origin became a mystery once again. I will know once I check. The golden-robed man's eyes narrowed, and a majestic emperor pressure pressed towards Chu Bei. What, you want to fight? Chu Bei was expressionless. As his indifferent voice faded, a Genesis heaven space condensed around him. A white and tender doll appeared, and as it jumped, it created ripples that instantly disintegrated the golden-robed man's pressure. Origin spirit. The golden-robed man's expression changed abruptly when he saw the white and tender doll. Then, he immediately withdrew his aura. Source spirit was the symbol of a cultivator above the 4th star of the Great Emperor realm. With his strength of the 3rd star of the Great Emperor realm, it was impossible for him to be his opponent. Tell me, where is the battlefield? Why did you leave the battlefield and come to the chaotic universe? Chu Bei's voice was calm, and it didn't contain the slightest fluctuation of emotion. Emperor C, the golden-robed man uttered 2 syllables. I did not leave the battlefield as a deserter, but to seek help. The gold-robed man continued, there are 36 transcendental powers in the origin world. Every single time I come here, these 36 powers must dispatch an expert at the 2nd realm of the Emperor realm to accompany me to the battlefield. At this point, the golden-robed man's gaze swept across Yuan Di, Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, and the others. He was overjoyed. I didn't expect there to be 21 second-stage martial emperors in the chaotic universe. The Sovereign Sea needs you. The golden-robed man's gaze returned to Chu Bei. I hope you can come with me. Okay. Chu Bei nodded and replied with a single word. Upon hearing Chu Bei's reply, Xiao Yang, Yi Fan, Shahao, the primordial dragon phoenix, and the other second-stage martial emperors of the All Heavens shop nodded and agreed to go. Since we have the qualifications, We naturally have to go. Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and Gui Yuan also gave their answers. Great. The golden-robed man was overjoyed. Since that's the case, let's go to the origin world now and bring along the people sent by the 36 powers. Something happened in the origin world. The Tianluo clan has been destroyed. In addition, 9 other powers have no choice but to take root in the chaotic universe due to the depletion of their Genesis Qi, said Yuan Di. The Tianluo clan was destroyed. What happened? The golden-robed man's expression changed abruptly. He had long known that the Genesis Qi in the 36 gates of the origin world had been depleted, and it was within his expectations that some powers would leave the origin world. However, the Tianluo clan's destruction had truly shocked him. It was my doing. Chu Bei's voice was calm. The golden-robed man immediately looked at Chu Bei again. He seemed to want to ask something, but he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Then I'll first pay a visit to the 9 powers that have left the origin world. The golden-robed man's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, there were 9 more figures behind him. There was no doubt that these 9 people were immortal emperors who had reached the 2nd stage of the emperor stage. Let's go to the origin world. The golden-robed man's gaze swept across Chu Bei, Yuan Di, and the others before he waved his right hand. A huge gap instantly appeared in the void in front of him. First, there was chaos within the gap, and then a clear, resplendent world appeared. Compared to the previous 36 gates, there were only 26 gates left in the origin world. Emperor Dao runes intertwined above these gates, revealing different words. They each represented a different power, and they were not related to each other. The golden-robed man took a step forward and instantly appeared in the origin world. Chu Bei, Yuan Di, and the others followed closely behind. As for the people sent by the other 9 powers, they formed a group and entered together. They are here. Just as the golden-robed man appeared in the origin world, a greeting came from the 26 gates one after another. Then, a figure slowly walked out from each gate. All of them had powerful auras, and they were all immortal emperors who had reached the 2nd stage of the emperor stage. Why are there so many reinforcements this time? When the immortal emperors who walked out of the gates saw Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and the others, a trace of surprise flashed across their faces. Then, they looked at the golden-robed man in confusion. They're from the all-heavens domain, the golden-robed man said indifferently. They don't have origin energy. How did they break through to the 2nd stage of the emperor stage? The immortal emperors asked. The golden-robed man shook his head and did not say anything. Owner of the all-heavens shop, we meet again. At this moment, the figure who walked out of the 9 underworlds gate came in front of Chu Bei and greeted him very politely. Chu Bei nodded. This person was the 9 Netherbird clan's 2nd elder who had followed you by back then. When the other immortal emperors who walked out of the gates saw Chu Bei, their gazes paused for a moment, and a strange look flashed across their eyes. The scene of him destroying the Tianluo clan by himself was still fresh in their minds. Let's go. As the golden-robed man's voice fell, his hands formed a complicated seal, and then he waved them fiercely. With a rumble, a colorful space-time tunnel that led to an unknown place was formed. All kinds of emperor flowers bloomed in the tunnel, and the surging river of time surged. The golden-robed man took the lead and stepped into the space-time tunnel. Chu Bei and the others followed closely behind. Is that the battlefield of the Emperor Sea? We finally see it. The group of Emperor stage experts stepped into the space-time tunnel. Soon, an unbelievable scene appeared in their vision. It was a vast and boundless golden sea. Every wave contained a brand new great world. The waves surged, rising and falling continuously. Immortal emperor power surged, space-time fragments swirled, and emperor runes filled the air. Chapter 803. Rumble, however, the dazzling golden ocean was a terrifying battlefield. In the center of the sea, there was a vast battlefield. In the battlefield, several powerful auras intertwined and collided, releasing immortal emperor power that could destroy heaven and earth. Outside the battlefield was a barrier formed by immortal emperor runes. Several injured immortal emperors were rapidly recovering from their injuries. A Genesis heaven domain enveloped their bodies, blocking the terrifying waves of energy surging out from the battlefield. They were clearly immortal emperors who had reached the second stage of emperor stage. When the golden-robed man arrived with Chu Bei, Emperor Yuan, and the others, the injured immortal emperors and the remaining immortal emperors cast their gazes towards the golden-robed man's group. This is the Emperor C. However, what you see is only one of the 7 battlefields, and it's also the weakest one. The golden-robed man's gaze swept across Chu Bei, Emperor Yuan, and the others. Various Genesis heaven domains collided in the battlefield. In terms of numbers, the surviving immortal emperors were clearly fewer than the emperor corpses. Although the emperor corpses had lost their consciousness, their battle strength was almost the same as when they were alive. Every attack carried monstrous emperor might, terrifying to the extreme. One of the 7 battlefields. And it's the weakest one? Yuan Di, Heng Shu, and the other experts were shocked when they heard the golden-robed man's words. When they looked at the life-and-death battles on the battlefield, they all sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Their breathing almost stopped, and they felt extremely stifled. In the great chaos heavens, they were existences standing at the pinnacle, unrivaled. But here, they were like small soldiers, fighting in the weakest battlefield. In the Emperor C, immortal emperors of the second stage of Emperor stage from 1 star to 4 stars form one battlefield, known as the 7th battlefield. Immortal emperors of the second stage of Emperor stage from 5 stars to 7 stars form another battlefield, known as the 6th battlefield. Immortal emperors of the second stage of Emperor stage from 8 stars to 9 stars form another battlefield, known as the 5th battlefield. At the 3rd stage of Emperor stage, each star is a battlefield. 1 star is the 4th battlefield, 2 stars is the 3rd battlefield, 3 stars is the 2nd battlefield, and 4 stars is the 1st battlefield. The golden-robed man's gaze swept across Chu Bei and Emperor Yuan as he explained the distribution of the battlefields. Only 4 stars. What about 5 stars and above? Yuan Di immediately asked. The others also looked confused. The golden-robed man glanced at the origin the arch. If he was at the 5-star realm, the hunt for the 7th origin tool wouldn't have failed. The strength of the 7th origin tool was at the Emperor realm level 3-5 stars. As far as I know, we have never had a 5-star immortal emperor. Are those emperor corpses in the 1st battlefield also immortal emperor experts who participated in the origin tool hunt? Chu Bei asked. That's right. However, it was destroyed by the 3rd origin tool and became the terrifying emperor corpse that it is today, the golden-robed man replied. What's the situation on the various battlefields right now? Chu Bei continued to ask. The golden-robed man shook his head, his expression turning grave. The 7 battlefields are not optimistic. However, the final deciding factor is still the 1st battlefield. Once the 1st battlefield falls, the other 6 battlefields will instantly collapse. What are you all still standing there for? Since you're already here, why don't you join the battle? Suddenly, a cold and dignified divine sense transmitted from the battlefield, ringing in the ears of Chu Bei, the origin the arch, and the others. Chu Bei followed the divine sense and saw that the speaker was a 2-realm 4-star realm expert. An origin spirit had already appeared in the origin heaven space. The emperor corpse that was his opponent was also a 2-realm 4-star realm expert. What made Chu Bei's expression change was that among the 2-realm 4-star realm immortal emperors, there was one whose aura he was very familiar with. This aura came from the same source as Tian Tong. Evidently, the 2-realm 4-star realm immortal emperor was an ancestor of the Tianluo clan. The golden-robed man entered the battlefield and found a 3-star emperor corpse as his opponent. An intense battle instantly broke out. The origin the arch, Xiao Yang, Shahao, the ancient dragon phoenix, and the others also found a 1-star emperor corpse as their opponent. In an instant, the pressure on the immortal emperors who were already fighting on the battlefield suddenly decreased. With a step, Chu Bei also entered the battlefield. The origin heaven space passed through his body, and his origin spirit drifted about and found a 4-star emperor corpse. The moment Chu Bei made his move, all the immortal emperors on the battlefield gathered their gazes. Especially when they saw that Chubei's origin heaven space had already produced an origin spirit, they couldn't help but reveal shocked expressions. Where did you find such a helper? Why have I never seen him before? The 4-star experts on the battlefield fought fiercely with the Emperor corpse while looking at the golden-robed man with questioning gazes. A 4-star realm expert was already considered a leader in the 7th battlefield. He comes from the great domain of the Chaos Heavens. The golden-robed man sent out a divine sense. As for his specific origins, I don't know. Upon hearing the golden-robed man's words, the group of 4-star experts carefully observed Chubei's battle. What shocked them was that they actually captured their own Emperor Daos from Chubei's Emperor Dao. How can this be? How many Dao fruits has he cultivated? There are thousands of great Daos, and he has reached the pinnacle of each Dao. The 4-star experts exchanged glances with each other, feeling even more astonished. Rumble. Chubei's battle became more and more intense, and it soon entered a white-hot state. Although Chubei had the upper hand from the beginning, the Emperor corpse was also a 4-star realm expert, and it didn't seem like he was going to lose anytime soon. Buzz buzz buzz. The battle continued. Surging immortal Emperor power surged in the battlefield. Due to the Emperor corpse's advantage in numbers, another 4-star Emperor corpse joined Chubei's battle at the end of the last 10,000 years. The 4-star Emperor corpse and the other 4-star Emperor corpse surrounded Chubei. Suddenly, Chubei's overwhelming advantage disappeared, and his expression became serious. Another 100,000 years passed. Chubei still didn't fall into a disadvantageous position, and he even seemed to be suppressing the 2 4-star Emperor corpses. At this time, the 3rd 4-star Emperor corpse joined the battle, and they surrounded Chubei in a triangular formation. Chubei's expression became more solemn, but he rejected the help of the other 4-star immortal emperors. Is he really a 4-star? In the battlefield, the 4-star immortal emperors looked at Chubei, who was fighting against 3 4-star emperor corpses, in disbelief. They were all 4-star realm experts, and they didn't feel any pressure when facing 1 4-star emperor corpse. However, when facing 2 4-star emperor corpses, they could only retreat and defend themselves. However, Chubei wasn't in the mood to pay attention to the immortal emperor's exclamations. He realized that in this kind of battle where he didn't hold back his strength, he had combined various Emperor Daos countless times to defend and attack. The bottleneck of his 4-star realm had actually loosened a little. Chapter 804. Vaguely, Chubei felt like he was about to make a breakthrough. What made him the happiest was that both the Golden Disc and the Origin Tool catalog in his knowledge sea began to tremble. The former's patterns became clearer and clearer, while the latter's fruits became more and more transparent. Not long after the 300,000 years. Boom! The Origin Tool catalog and the Golden Disc flew out of Chubei's knowledge sea at the same time. Accompanied by a loud noise, the Origin Tool catalog and the Golden Disc expanded rapidly, occupying the sky above the battlefield in an instant, like 2 colossal creatures. Looking at the Origin Tool catalog and the Golden Disc above, Chubei was slightly stunned. These 2 guys flew out completely on their own, not under his control. Buzz buzz buzz. Amidst the trembling, the strange runes on the Origin Tool catalog floated up and down, finally forming chains of runes. Countless chains intertwined with each other, bringing with them waves of crisp sounds, and finally turned into a large rune net, enveloping down. The target of these large rune nets was locked onto the Emperor corpses, instantly wrapping them up. The Golden Disc trembled, and billions of runes bloomed with dazzling Emperor light at the same time. Every rune shot out a divine rainbow of Emperor Dao, like silk threads, quickly and accurately piercing into the Emperor corpses. Seeing this scene, the immortal emperors on the battlefield were stunned at first, and their faces were filled with confusion. But in just a moment, their pupils shrank, and their faces were filled with shock. The Origin Tool catalog and the Golden Disc seemed to have found nourishment. The 2 seemed to be in a competition, crazily absorbing a purple-red energy from the Emperor corpses. The Emperor corpses, which originally had terrifying strength when they were alive, were enveloped by the large rune net, or were pierced by the threads of the devil fruit tree, one by one, as if they were suddenly frozen, unable to move at all. Bang! As time passed, the first emperor corpse let out a dull sound, and then fell down with a loud bang. The large rune net wrapped around him also turned back into runes and disappeared into the origin tool catalog. Bang, bang, bang. More and more emperor corpses fell from the sky, smashing into the emperor sea below, bringing with them waves of golden waves. These emperor corpses seemed to have lost their most core energy. Without the support of this energy, they were no different from ordinary immortal emperor corpses. What's going on? What the hell is that? In just a few breaths of time, he actually got rid of those troublesome emperor corpses. The immortal emperors were dumbfounded as they watched more and more emperor corpses lose their fighting strength and fall into the emperor sea. They were truly unable to imagine that these imperial corpses that they'd fought for countless eras with had perished just like that. On the battlefield, the number of emperor corpses was decreasing. When the last emperor corpse fell from the sky into the emperor sea, the immortal emperors couldn't help but gulp. When they glanced at the origin tool list and the golden disc, it was as if they had eaten a delicious meal and had received a large amount of nourishment. After a series of cheerful cries, they returned to Chubei's sea of consciousness under the gaze of several celestial emperors. After a long time, the group of immortal emperors finally recovered from their shock when they saw that there were no more emperor corpses on the battlefield. It's over. Their battle ended just like that. Even though everyone present was already an immortal emperor, at this moment, their expressions were as if they had just had a great dream. Master, Xiao Yang, Shahao, Yi Fan, and the others cried out. They immediately flew to Chubei's side. However, they didn't seem too shocked by this scene. In their eyes, no matter how outstanding their master's performance was, this was how it should be. Were those two items your Tao-proving items? The group of immortal emperors surrounded Chubei, their faces full of question marks. Chubei's gaze indifferently swept across the immortal emperors around him, but he didn't give any response. At this moment, his attention was already on the golden disc and origin tool list in his sea of consciousness. Those corpses are controlled by the third origin tool, and the latter's energy is contained within them. These are great supplements for us. The golden disc swayed, and a white and tender chubby child appeared at the top of the tree, sending a divine will to Chubei. Then have you eaten enough? Seeing the patterns on the origin tool list become clearer and clearer, Chubei asked. Not enough, not enough. This time, it wasn't the golden disc that replied, but the origin tool list that sent out a divine will. Let's go to the sixth battlefield. Chubei didn't respond to the doubts of the immortal emperors around him. What? To the sixth battlefield? Hearing Chubei's words, the immortal emperors were shocked. Even the four-star powerhouses were surprised. What? Are you guys still going to stay here? Chubei's gaze swept across the four-star powerhouses. The four-star powerhouses were stunned. Just as they were about to say something, they seemed to recall the previous scene, and then they looked at each other. Let's go to the sixth battlefield. The four-star powerhouses made a decision after communicating with their divine will. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, another space-time tunnel formed by the River of Time was formed. Chubei took the lead and stepped into the space-time tunnel, and the others followed closely behind. Soon, Chubei exited the space-time tunnel. It was still the vast golden sea, and the waves were surging, rising, and falling continuously. The surging immortal emperor power surged, the space-time fragments moved, and emperor runes filled the air. Compared to the seventh battlefield, although the number of powerhouses in the sixth battlefield was significantly fewer, the aftermath of the battle was even more terrifying. Even Chubei felt the pressure. Especially the seven-star powerhouses who led the battle. The source spirit in their source heaven space was no longer a chubby white doll, but a child with clothes on. At a closer look, the child's appearance was very similar to those seven-star powerhouses, as though they were cast from the same mold. Obviously, once a six-star powerhouse broke through to seven-star, the source spirit's appearance didn't change. It was like a baby growing into a teenager. Just as Chubei and the others arrived, the powerhouses who were fighting all looked over, and a strange look flashed across their eyes. Why are you guys here? Did you leave those corpses alone? We can't hold on anymore. A majestic voice that carried the supreme immortal emperor power rang out from the battlefield. No. The energy waves of those corpses have disappeared. What's going on? The 7-star powerhouses on the battlefield seemed to have sensed something, and their eyes suddenly narrowed as they looked at Chu Bei and the others with questioning eyes. Almost at the same time, the source spirits in their source heaven spaces that were very similar to them also looked over. However, before the 7-star powerhouses from the 7th battlefield could respond, the origin tool chart and the golden disc flew out from Chu Bei's sea of consciousness at the same time. Then, amidst a loud boom, the origin tool chart and the golden disc rapidly expanded, occupying the sky above the battlefield like two colossal creatures. Chapter 805. What happened next was extremely similar to what had happened in the 7th battlefield. The strange runes on the origin tool chart floated up and down, forming chains of runes. The chains intertwined with each other, creating a crisp sound. In the end, they turned into a large rune net that enveloped everything. In an instant, the net enveloped a portion of the emperor corpses that were fighting with the immortal emperors on the battlefield. At the same time, the golden disc vibrated, and billions of runes emitted dazzling emperor light. Emperor Dao divine rainbows shot out from every rune, and they pierced into the remaining emperor corpses quickly and accurately. Witnessing this scene, all the immortal emperors in the 6th battlefield, including the 7-star powerhouses, were stunned. Then, they looked up at the golden disc and the origin tool chart with confusion in their eyes. On the other hand, Emperor Yuan, Heng Shu, and the immortal emperors from the 7th battlefield were much calmer, and their faces were filled with anticipation. Buzz buzz, suddenly, the immortal emperors' expressions changed drastically, and they were filled with disbelief. Under their gaze, the two mysterious objects above their heads seemed to have found delicious food when facing the emperor corpses that had the strength of their previous lives. The two objects seemed to be in a competition, and they frantically absorbed the purplish-red energy from the emperor corpses. Just like in the 7th battlefield, the purplish-red energy in the emperor corpses quickly disappeared under the origin tool chart and the devil fruit tree's consumption. Bang! 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 In the end, the emperor corpses fell from the sky and smashed into the emperor sea below, creating golden waves. When all the emperor corpses sank into the sea, the immortal emperors on the battlefield were stunned. It was as if all of them had suddenly become numb. It was as if they could not accept this scene. Everything was too sudden. What are they? They actually absorbed the energy of the 3rd origin tool on those corpses. The immortal emperors on the battlefield regained their senses. When they looked at the golden disc and the origin tool chart again, there was a hint of fear on their faces. Let's go to the next battlefield. Looking at the golden disc's increasingly sturdy torso and the origin tool chart's increasingly clear runes, coupled with the unsatisfied thirst of the two objects, Chu Bei was overjoyed. He could not wait to have his fill of the two objects, especially the origin tool chart. When the runes were completely clear, he would be able to find the 7th origin tool. Mu Shui-Er's resurrection was now even more hopeful. Is this how you came from the 7th battlefield to the 6th battlefield? After hearing Chu Bei's words, the immortal emperors of the 6th battlefield glanced at the immortal emperors of the 5th battlefield and couldn't help but speak. Victory came too suddenly. It's hard to believe that all of this happened. An immortal emperor from the 7th battlefield sighed. Who are you? The 6th battlefield's immortal emperor seemed to have sensed Chu Bei's aura and asked. The person who will end this battle. Chu Bei's voice was flat. Let's go to the next battlefield. The immortal emperor of the 6th battlefield was displeased when he didn't get an answer. However, after glancing at the devil fruit tree and the origin tool chart, he immediately opened a passage to the 5th battlefield. There were even fewer immortal emperors in the 5th battlefield, but their strength was undoubtedly even more terrifying. Within the 8-star immortal emperor's Genesis heaven space, the origin spirit had clearly grown up again, turning from a child to a young man. Looking at the 2-star immortal emperors and 9-star immortal emperors, the origin spirit had become exactly the same as those immortal emperors. At first glance, it looked like one main body and one clone. Even the 8-star and 9-star immortal emperors' expressions changed when they saw Chu Bei's group and the experts from the 6th and 7th battlefields. This time, the 8-star and 9-star immortal emperors didn't even have time to send out a message before the golden disk and origin tool chart appeared in the sky. Even though the Emperor Corps in the 5th battlefield had reached the 8-star and 9-star immortal emperors, it was no different from the 6th and 7th battlefield's Emperor Corpses in front of the origin tool chart and golden disk. It was still just a delicious meal. In just a few breaths, the third origin tool in the Emperor Corpse's body was sucked dry and fell heavily into the Emperor Sea below. When they saw this scene, the 8-star and 9-star immortal emperors' expressions were exactly the same as when they saw the immortal emperors from the previous 2 battlefields. When they finally came to their senses, they all began to re-evaluate the golden disk and the origin tool chart above their heads. Let's go to the next battlefield. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the immortal emperors on the 5th battlefield. Okay. The immortal emperors on the 5th battlefield exchanged glances with each other and jointly opened up a beautiful passage. Compared to the previous battlefields, the 4th battlefield's appearance had completely changed. Chu Bei's group was clearly still above the Emperor Sea, but they seemed to have been born in another world. To be more precise, they seemed to be in the middle of 11 new worlds. No matter which world it was filled with rich origin aura that was even stronger than the origin worlds. Rumble, the 11 worlds collided. Vaguely, there was an illusory figure in each world. If the source heaven space is the symbol of the 2nd Emperor realm, then the source heaven world is the symbol of the 3rd Emperor realm. The peak 2nd Emperor realm immortal emperor from the 5th battlefield glanced at Xiao Yang, Chen Nan, and the others, then pointed at the colliding worlds. Each world filled with origin chi represents a 3rd Emperor realm immortal emperor. There are 5 living people and 6 Emperor corpses. No wonder only 5 worlds are filled with vitality. The other 6 worlds are eerie and terrifying. The primordial dragon phoenix's expression was solemn. Buzz buzz buzz, with a buzzing sound, the origin tool chart and the golden disk moved again. Unlike the previous battlefields, the origin tool chart and the devil fruit tree didn't fight on their own this time. Instead, they each released a wisp of energy ripples that intertwined with each other. Then, 6 streams of energy flew into the 6 source heaven worlds controlled by the Emperor Corpses. Boom! The moment the origin tool chart and the golden disk interfered, the balance of the 11 source heaven worlds was broken. It's the origin tool chart. It's finally appeared. What is that thing that is with him? It can actually cooperate with the origin tool chart. At this moment, several dignified voices sounded in the ears of the immortal emperors. In the next instant, 5 of the 11 source heaven worlds that were brimming with life force disappeared. 5 illusory figures with indistinct appearances walked out. Vaguely, their gazes were focused on the origin tool chart and the golden disk. They're absorbing the energy of the 3rd origin tool. Looking at the 6 source heaven worlds that were gradually collapsing, the 5 figures spoke again. Epochs changed, and time flowed by. Boom! Finally, the 6 Emperor Corpses' source heaven worlds completely collapsed. Chapter 806. As the source heaven world was destroyed, the 6 Emperor Corpses also appeared before everyone's eyes, sinking into the Emperor Sea below. We won again. Looking at this scene, the immortal emperors from the 5th battlefield were excited. Then, they looked at the 5 immortal emperors who had reached the 3rd Emperor realm. Senior, open the passage to the 3rd battlefield. Hearing this, the 5 immortal emperors looked at each other and shook their heads. Several eras ago, we couldn't contact the 3rd battlefield, and the passage can't be opened. Can those Emperor Corpses open the passage? The immortal emperors were shocked. The 5 immortal emperors shook their heads again. After a long time, may I know who you are? The 5 immortal emperors fixed their gazes on Chu Bei. As they sent out wisps of divine sense, they used supreme emperor techniques to deduce Chu Bei's past and present lives. But what surprised them was that even with their emperor techniques, they could only see chaos. At this moment, Chu Bei was not in the mood to pay attention to the 5 immortal emperors who had reached the 3rd Emperor realm. After the golden disk and the origin tool chart devoured the energy of the third origin tool in the 6 source heaven worlds, a stream of information appeared in Chubei's knowledge sea. This stream of information was related to reviving Mu Shui. Can we really find the 7th origin tool? Chubei sent out a divine sense with an excited expression. Help me recover, and I'll take you there, the origin tool chart replied. The next moment, the origin tool chart released a blinding divine light, and a heart-palpitating aura enveloped the entire Emperor Sea. At the same time, the golden disk trembled, and billions of ripples formed a beautiful passage. Let's go. The golden disk and the origin tool chart spoke at the same time. Then, an indescribably terrifying force wrapped around Chubei and disappeared. Everyone, retreat. It's time to rest. Looking at the direction where Chubei, the origin tool chart, and the golden disk had disappeared, the 5 immortal emperors sighed. This was a chaotic world. There was only a blood-red mountain. A thin black sword was inserted into the mountain's peak. Ripples spread out. The golden disk and the origin tool chart appeared first. Chubei followed closely behind. This is the 7th origin tool. Chubei's gaze was fixed on the thin black sword. The aura flowing around the sword made his heart palpitate. Why have you all come looking for me? The black sword trembled and released a divine will. I need you to resurrect a person. His soul has been destroyed, and he has failed to reincarnate. The branches of the devil fruit tree swayed. What if I don't help? A sharp purple light shot out from the black sword's hilt. Although the 2 of us have yet to recover, it should be enough if we join forces to deal with you. The golden disk and the origin tool manual sandwiched the black sword in the middle, unleashing frightening energy fluctuations. 3 energy waves that far exceeded the might of an immortal emperor intertwined. In an instant, the blood mountain below was shattered. This time, you owe me. The black sword let out a cold snort and then soared into the sky. Hundreds of millions of rays of black light bloomed from the sword. In the black light, strange and mysterious runes sounded, and dense light spots suddenly appeared. Then, under Chubei's nervous and expectant gaze, these light spots gathered and intertwined. Gradually, these dots of light converged to form a beautiful woman with a graceful figure. Shui-er, Chubei called out softly with tears in his eyes. If he hadn't fallen into a deep sleep for so long, he wouldn't have been separated by life and death. As time passed, the woman's empty eyes gradually became filled with emotion. Young martial uncle, in the black light, Mu Shui-er's gaze was fixed on Chubei's body. Shui-er, martial uncle has kept you waiting. Chubei appeared in front of Mu Shui-er and pulled her into his arms. Mu Shui-er bit her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Let's go home. After Chubei thanked the black sword, he carried Mu Shui-er and disappeared. When they reappeared, they were already in the purple cloud sect of the Black Wasteland. After spending 10,000 years alone with Mu Shui-er, Chubei took Mu Shui-er and left the purple cloud sect. Because they couldn't break through the 3rd battlefield, the immortal emperors in the 4th to 7th battlefields had been trying to find a way to break through. As for Chubei, he had an indifferent attitude. For tens of thousands of years, he either used the golden disk and the Genesis Chi in the origin tool list to cultivate, accompanied Mu Shui-er to travel the heavens, or taught the disciples of the All Heavens shop. Such a peaceful life lasted until one day, the Great Eastern Sea region of the Chaos Heavens. Rumble. There was an earth-shattering explosion. In the depths of the Great Eastern Sea region, a black ball of light larger than most emperor provinces appeared, slowly flying with the aura of an emperor. As it flew, the surrounding chaotic airflow formed an incomparably dazzling light behind it, leaving a long stream of light in the void. The direction it was heading was the center of the great regions of the Chaos Heavens where the various regions gathered. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The black ball of light, which was so huge that it was larger than Emperor Province, maintained a moderate speed. However, the aura it released became more and more terrifying. When do you think we'll be able to break through the 3rd battlefield? I wonder what the situation is like on those battlefields. It's been a lot calmer these eras. Just as a group of quasi-immortal emperor experts in the Great Eastern Sea region were discussing intensely, A behemoth with a supreme aura flashed past them not far away. Rumble. The shockwave formed by the black behemoth's impact on the surrounding chaotic airflow instantly hit the quasi-immortal Emperor experts, sending them flying. Puff. The quasi-immortal Emperor experts spat out blood, and their auras became chaotic. What is that? After the quasi-immortal Emperor experts from different regions came back to their senses, they stared in horror at the black stream of light in the distance that dissipated after a long time. They were dumbfounded. They were already at the quasi-immortal Emperor stage and were only one step away from the immortal Emperor stage. Even in the Great Eastern Sea region, where danger lurked everywhere, they had the ability to protect themselves. For this reason, they had never thought that there would be an unknown object. Just the shockwave produced by its flight was enough to seriously injure them. Moreover, this was merely the aftermath of the collision. If he was hit head-on, then wouldn't he die for sure? What kind of terrifying existence is that? The quasi-immortal Emperor experts looked at each other. When they recalled the boundless behemoth that flew past them, they all felt a lingering fear. But soon, they seemed to have thought of something, and the fear on their faces was replaced by excitement. An opportunity. This might be a great opportunity. I must seize this opportunity. Whether it's an inheritance or a treasure, I must seize it. As long as I seize it, even if I can't become a true immortal emperor, I'll definitely have the strength to fight against him. No matter how weak I am, I'll be able to escape safely from the hands of an immortal emperor. The quasi-immortal emperor experts were extremely excited and immediately used teleportation. Chapter 807. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. After several consecutive long-distance teleportations, the quasi-immortal emperors finally caught up to the side of the black ball of light that had slowed down. Heavens! There seems to be a person inside. The quasi-immortal emperors resisted the terrifying whistling sound and tried their best to look. When they saw the outline of the object in the black ball of light, their pupils suddenly shrank, and their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? The quasi-immortal emperors were stunned, and their expressions were a little dazed. They didn't dare to imagine that there would be a humanoid creature inside a behemoth that was even larger than an emperor province. No, it can't be a living creature. It must be a mystical creature. It's just in human form. After coming back to their senses, the quasi-immortal emperors were still unwilling to believe that there was a living creature inside the black ball of light. Since it's a mystical creature, let's make it stop first. The quasi-immortal emperors looked at each other, and after communicating with their eyes, they simultaneously used a secret technique to attack the black ball of light in the distance. Bang! However, the joint attack of these quasi-immortal emperors did not affect the behemoth in the slightest. Again, seeing this, the quasi-immortal emperors attacked again. Boom boom boom! After hundreds of times, the quasi-immortal emperors finally chose to give up. No, this matter must be reported to the immortal emperors first. The quasi-immortal emperors from different emperor provinces hesitated for a moment. While following the behemoth, they used a secret technique to send a message to their respective factions. The Fallen Emperor's River is ahead. It's going to pass through the Fallen Emperor's River. As time passed, the quasi-immortal emperor's expressions suddenly changed. In the Chaos Heavens, there were many other dangerous places besides the 7 Forbidden Lands, and the Fallen Emperor's River was one of them. The Blood Demon Door, one of the original 36 doors of the Origin World. Due to insufficient Genesis Chi, it left the Origin World and descended into the Chaos Heavens. Figures could be seen flying through the vast door. These figures had very unique appearances. Some had 8 faces and 24 arms, some had 4 faces and 16 arms, some had 3 faces and 8 arms, and the most common one had 2 arms. In the Blood Demon Holy Land, the most important tribe was the Blood Demon tribe, and these figures with unique appearances were all blood demons. However, because of their different characteristics, they were divided into 4 classes. These 8-faced and 24-armed beasts were the rarest. They had the purest bloodline and the greatest potential. Of course, this division only applied to the weak blood demons. Once one became a quasi-immortal emperor, there would no longer be any difference in status. After all, they were all supreme experts. Hey, isn't that Lord Bloodblade? Wasn't he looking for treasures in the great domain of chaos? Why are you back? Greetings, Lord Bloodblade. A group of blood demons, who were originally cultivating, immediately bowed respectfully when they saw a figure. The being known as Bloodblade looked at the group of clansmen and nodded before continuing to fly in a certain direction. Bloodblade, is what you said true? In a palace, a terrifying being whose aura was even stronger than Bloodblade spoke. I saw it with my own eyes. Bloodblade replied. If that's the case, then that huge object will really be a great opportunity. The being with the terrifying aura of an immortal emperor glanced at Bloody Knife and said, Take Feng Kong, Xing He, Wu Hun and the others and take this opportunity. Don't let the other clans touch it. I'll report this to Lord Blood Demon now and see if he has any instructions. I'll rush over as soon as possible. All right. Bloodblade responded and quickly left. At this moment, not only in the Blood Demon sacred land, but those quasi-immortal emperors who knew about the huge black object immediately reported this matter to the immortal emperors of the large domains where they were. An hour later. I heard that something big happened in the Far Eastern Sea region. Do you know about it? I heard that a great opportunity has appeared. Yes, there's a huge object bigger than the Emperor District. There seems to be a mysterious humanoid object inside. No one knows where it came from. However, it seems to have been taken over by the blood demons. Why? This great opportunity doesn't belong to their clan. In the great domain of chaos, the experts of various small domains were discussing the huge object intensely. Emperor District of the Great Heavens Shop. Yuan Di and a group of quasi-immortal emperors respectfully surrounded Chu Bei. At this moment, Yuan Di was telling Chu Bei what he knew about the Black Ball of Light. Senior, what do you think about this? Yuan Di looked at Chu Bei and waited for his instructions. Black Ball of Light? Interesting. Chu Bei stood up from his chair with a playful look on his face. Since all of you think it's a great opportunity, then I'll naturally get a share of it. Chu Bei smiled. Senior, this opportunity has already been taken over by the Blood Demon's sacred land. The Blood Demon Sacred Lord's cultivation is one of the 3 realms of immortal emperors, Yuan Di said. Do you think I'll be afraid of the Blood Demon Sacred Lord? Chu Bei looked at Yuan Di and smiled knowingly. This. Yuan Di seemed to remember something and was suddenly at a loss for words. Let's go and take a look. A black glow lit up around Chu Bei after the voice that carried a smile sounded. Everyone, including Xiao Yang and Yuan Di, instantly followed Chu Bei and disappeared. Master, this is my first time in the Far East Sea region. In the blink of an eye, the scene in Xiao Yang's sight underwent a drastic change. A moment ago, it was still the Emperor District of the All Heavens Shop. Now, the surroundings were hazy. Looking around, the surroundings were filled with mist-like chaotic airflow. The endless chaotic airflow produced a monstrous aura. Looking at the familiar chaotic Star Island, the experts, including Yuan Di, were full of respect again. At the same time, on the other side, because of the Black Ball of Light's arrival, the originally peaceful Fallen Emperor River suddenly became turbulent. Several huge spiral arms of water slapped at the behemoth. Each of them contained endless power, but they were unable to affect the behemoth in the slightest. At this moment, the behemoth was surrounded by countless experts. The innermost layer was made up of blood demons from the Blood Demon Sacred Land. Each of them released a powerful aura as a warning to the other tribes. In the great domain of chaos, the gazes of countless powerhouses were focused on the black light that was still moving slowly. Boom! Suddenly, the black ball of light accelerated at a terrifying speed, mercilessly slamming into the fallen Emperor's river below with a terrifying storm of Emperor's energy. Chapter 808. It was also at this moment that the surrounding water spiral arms that carried terrifying power were instantly shattered by the impact. A large amount of water splashed into the distance of the great chaotic heavens. The islands that were originally floating in the fallen Emperor River were also blown apart by the high-speed impact of the black ball of light. It's completely stopped. The group of powerhouses exclaimed. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, the powerful beings in the periphery began to approach the black ball of light. The powerhouses in the field were divided into different clans. Different clans had vastly different appearances and were scattered in different directions. All of you, back off. With a low snort, the blood demon powerhouse in the innermost circle released a tyrannical aura that intimidated the other clans. Do you really think that the blood demon Holy Land is the overlord of the great chaotic heavens? This opportunity belongs to the entire great chaotic heavens, not just the blood demon Holy Land. Almost at the same time, another majestic voice rang out in the great chaotic heavens. Then, a green-robed elder appeared in the sight of the powerhouses. That's the primogenitor of the Myriad Beast clan. I can't believe he came personally. Rumor has it that he once battled with Emperor Yuan for tens of thousands of years before the victor was decided. Upon hearing the voice, the various clans' gazes focused on the green-robed elder. After recognizing his identity and origin, they were all astonished. Brother Myriad Beast is right. Does the Blood Demon clan want to become enemies with all the clans in the Great Chaotic Heavens? Although the Great Chaotic Heavens are powerful, don't be too arrogant. If you become enemies with the entire Great Chaotic Heavens, you won't have a good time. After the primogenitor of the Myriad Beast clan, several figures appeared in the sight of the powerhouses. Oh my god! Celestial Emperor Kue Mu, Celestial Emperor Zhen Tian, Celestial Emperor Di Feng. These are the strongest celestial emperors in the Great Chaotic Heavens. They only appear once in 10,000 years, but they're all here. That's great. With them here, we can put pressure on the Blood Demon clan. We'll let them know that the Great Chaotic Heavens doesn't belong to the Blood Demon Holy Land alone. Maybe we can even get a share of the loot. The powerhouses from the various forces looked at the powerhouses who had appeared after the primogenitor of the Great Chaotic Heavens. What? Aren't you blood demons going to move aside? The primogenitor of all beasts took the lead and glared at the experts of the Blood Demon Holy Land. An incomparably terrifying pressure poured out like a torrential river. Puff, puff. Instantly, the Blood Demon clan's expert's face paled as he spat out blood. Bloodblade, what should we do now? The Blood Demon powerhouse looked at Bloodblade and asked. Lady Bai Ling should be here by now. Blood Knife glanced at primogenitor Thousand Beasts with a frown. Since you won't move aside, don't blame me for not giving face to your Blood Demon Holy Land. The primogenitor of all beasts snorted coldly. However, just as he was about to send the Blood Demon Holy Land's experts flying, a tyrannical existence that was not inferior to him appeared in the distance. 10,000 beasts, you think you're strong enough to bully a junior of my clan? A furious voice rang out. Then, a huge palm slammed towards the primogenitor. Old Bai Ling, do you want to spar? Ancestor of all beasts didn't even look at the incoming palm. He clenched his fist and punched out. Bang! There was an earth-shattering explosion as the fist and palm collided. The terrifying Emperor's origin source lore exploded. The terrifying shockwaves sent the surrounding experts flying. At the same time, on the other side of the Chaos Great Domain. Senior, that's the direction of the fallen Emperor River. It seems like the strongest experts of the Great Domain are fighting there. A quasi-immortal Emperor expert looked at Chu Bei and said, "Isn't that where the Black Ball of Light is? The battle must be in that area." Yuan Di added. "I know," Chu Bei said with a faint smile. Then, he waved his hand again and disappeared with Yuan Di and the others. Above the fallen Emperor River. That's the Blood Demon Holy Land's ancestor Bai Ling. It's said that his strength is second only to the Blood Demon primogenitor. Like the primogenitor of all beasts, he's also at the peak of the first Emperor realm. Is there going to be a life-and-death battle between immortal emperors? Is it still safe for us to stay here? Impossible. At their level, it's impossible for a life-and-death battle to happen. No one wants to die. After the experts from the various factions stabilized themselves, they began to discuss among themselves. Greetings, Lord Bai Ling. The group of experts from the Blood Demon Holy Land immediately bowed to the white-robed figure. Old Bai Ling, Don't tell me that you really dare to take this opportunity for yourself in front of so many clans. Not only the all-beasts progenitor, but Immortal Emperor Kue Mu, Immortal Emperor Zhen Tian, Immortal Emperor Di Feng, and the other strongest experts of the Great Domain also looked coldly at Ancestor Bai Ling. You must be joking. Ancestor Bai Ling swept his gaze across the experts. The Blood Demon progenitor said that any clan with an 8-star sovereign and 1 immortal emperor is qualified to explore this colossal object. As soon as Ancestor 100 Spirit's voice drifted across the Great Domain of Chaos, the clamor in the field reached a higher level. What does that mean? If that's the case, won't it have nothing to do with our clan? After all, our clan doesn't have an 8-star sovereign and 1 immortal emperor. That's right. If a small domain only has 1 8-star immortal emperor, what about the other clans? Isn't this too unfair to us? Some experts from the other clans protested. That's a good suggestion. On the other hand, Myriad Beasts progenitor, Immortal Emperor Kue Mu, and the other experts looked at each other and nodded in satisfaction with smiles on their faces. As expected, these immortal emperors are only fighting for the benefit of their own clans. They don't care about the other clans when the benefits are there. Let's be more open-minded. This is a world where the strong preys on the weak. Those with strength naturally have the right to speak. The clans without an 8-star sovereign and 1 immortal emperor had ugly expressions. Although all of you are qualified to send people in, the number of experts who can enter is different. An 8-star sovereign and 1 immortal emperor clan can send 30 people. 2 clans can send 60 people, and so on. At this moment, Ancestor Bai Ling of the Blood Demon Sacred Ground spoke again. Will the Blood Demon Sacred Ground abide by this rule? Hearing Ancestor Bai Ling's words, the All-Beasts progenitor and the other immortal emperors frowned. Of course not. The Blood Demon Sacred Ground doesn't have a limit, Ancestor Bai Ling said calmly. Why? The All-Beasts progenitor and immortal emperor Kue Mu glared at Ancestor Bai Ling with gloomy expressions. This is my intention. Do you have any objections? Being able to let you join us is already the greatest gift we can give you. Before Ancestor Bai Ling could speak, a powerful and dignified voice came from the Blood Demon Sacred Ground. At this moment, an incomparably huge figure appeared above the Blood Demon Sacred Ground. He was shrouded in a hazy purple mist and gave off an illusory feeling. Chapter 809. Do you think there's a limit to the number of people in the Purple Extreme clan? At this moment, another powerful voice rang out with a hint of a smile. Then, a gigantic figure appeared above the Purple Extreme gate. It was also impossible to see its appearance. Who's the speaker? The Blood Demon Sacred Land progenitor and the Purple Extreme Gate progenitor. Around the behemoths, the experts of various races looked at the 2 blurry figures above the Blood Demon Sacred Ground and the Purple Pole Gate one after another. Each and every one of them revealed a look of astonishment as they discussed intensely. The Blood Demon progenitor snorted and ignored the Purple Extreme Gate progenitor's mocking words. Aren't the 2 of you too arrogant? You really don't put us in your eyes. The primogenitor of beasts glanced coldly at the Blood Demon primogenitor and the East Emperor primogenitor. He said, although the 2 of you have entered the 3rd Emperor realm, I know that you seem to be under some kind of restriction. Ever since you returned from the 4th battlefield, you have been unable to leave the portal and travel the great domains of chaos like us. To put it simply, so what if you're strong? In the end, you can only send out Immortal Emperor Di like the Bai Ling Elder. The 1,000 Beasts progenitor snorted. Even if you can't leave the sacred land, I can still suppress you with my divine will. Accompanied by a cold voice, the gigantic purple figure above the Blood Demon Sacred Land suddenly condensed into a gigantic purple palm print. Under the gazes of countless experts, the purple palm print shot out as if it had pierced through space from the Blood Demon Gate. It instantly appeared above the fallen Emperor River and headed straight for the 1,000 Beasts progenitor. The 1,000 Beasts progenitor narrowed his eyes at the sight of the gigantic purple palm. Without any hesitation, he gathered all the energy in his body into his palm and shot out his own palm. Rumble. In an instant, a new space was formed at the place where the 2 collided. In this space, The two gigantic palms collided. Two different origin energies intertwined and released a destructive energy storm. Boom! Finally, with an explosion, the purple palm prince energy invaded the Thousand Beasts progenitor's body. Then, with a painful scream, the Thousand Beasts progenitor's body exploded into a pile of minced meat. However, the minced meat quickly gathered together and turned back into the Thousand Beasts progenitor. Damn it! The myriad beasts primogenitor stabilized himself. His face was somewhat pale as he cursed viciously. When he looked at the blood demon primogenitor again, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. It wasn't just the primogenitor of myriad beasts. The other immortal emperors who had the same thought also turned solemn. Is this the strength of the blood devil progenitor? As expected of the super-existence who founded the blood demon Holy Land, without his true body, he defeated the myriad beast primogenitor with just his divine will. Since they're both door founders, the purple pole primogenitor probably has the same strength. When the experts from the various clans looked at the primogenitors of the two major sects again, their eyes were filled with fear. Now, do you have any objections to my previous instructions? The blood devil progenitor's cold voice rang out from the grand domain of chaos. However, this time, the primogenitor of myriad beasts, Kue Mu, and the other immortal emperors did not dare to raise any objections. Their faces were filled with anger and unwillingness. Very good. Since no one has expressed their opinions, then regarding this mysterious object, I don't think it's appropriate. At the very least, there shouldn't be a limit to the number of disciples who can enter. At this moment, the blood devil progenitor's words were suddenly interrupted by a mocking voice. Almost at the same time, the cultivators above the fallen Emperor River were shocked. They were all dumbfounded. Who said that? How dare he refute the blood devil progenitor? Does he have a death wish? Is he blind? Didn't he see how the blood devil progenitor defeated the myriad beast primogenitor with just his divine will? The experts from various clans turned their heads to look. Soon, a group of figures appeared in their sights. The leader was a young man in a purple robe. At this moment, the purple-robed young man had his hands behind his back and looked calm and composed. The owner of the All Heavens shop. I didn't expect him to be here. Instantly, the crowd broke out into discussion again. So it's you. You destroyed the Tianluo clan. Do you know that the Blood Devil tribe and the Tianluo clan share the same origin? The Blood Devil progenitor's cold voice drifted through the air above the Blood Devil sacred ground, carrying a sharp killing intent. If you could kill me, shouldn't you have done it the first time we met? Chu Bei looked indifferently in the direction of the Blood Devil's sacred ground. His tone was calm, as if he didn't take the Blood Devil progenitor seriously. Do you have a problem with my instructions? The Blood Devil progenitor snorted coldly. Then, a violent aura surged from above the Blood Devil's sacred ground. When it appeared above the fallen Emperor River, it formed a sharp blade and stabbed toward Chu Bei. Crack! However, before this sharp blade could even touch Chu Bei, it was shattered by a black light, causing a wave of clear and melodious sounds to ring out. Could that be the energy that restricted the Blood Devil progenitor? The Blood Devil progenitor left his door, so it came out. Countless experts were stunned by the black light at first, but they soon realized what it was. Whoosh! The Emperor's aura surged, and layers of waves surged toward the giant black palm. Let me go. Let me go back. The Blood Devil progenitor's expression became more and more fearful as he watched the approaching black light. However, no matter how much he tried, he couldn't break free from the giant black palm. The giant black palm didn't seem to have much energy, but it was like a black hole with endless devouring power that firmly bound him. No! No! Finally, the Blood Devil progenitor gave up struggling. His face was filled with unwillingness and helplessness. His eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at Chu Bei. At this point, it was too late for him to break free. He could only allow the giant black palm to suppress him. However, just as he was about to face the giant black palm suppression, the giant black palm that bound him suddenly expanded. Are you trying to snatch someone from me? Suddenly, Chu Bei's calm voice sounded in the ears of countless experts, as if he was speaking to the giant black palm. The moment he finished speaking, tens of thousands of black balls of light appeared around the giant black palm. Kai, Kai, Kai. In an instant, these black balls of light shot out from the giant black palm. Whoosh! The surging river of energy brought about huge tornadoes. They carried with them the power to destroy the heavens and earth as they wrapped around the black balls of light, as if to purify them. Chapter 8:10. As if provoked, these balls of black light began to swell. Then, as if they had become black holes, they began to devour the river of origin energy. Bang! The two energies clashed, creating a series of explosions. Heavens! Is the all-heavens shop master resisting the mysterious energy that suppressed the blood demon progenitor? But then again, just what kind of energy is that? Where did it come from? Why is it only targeting the progenitors who created the portal? The countless experts around Fallen Emperor's river were flabbergasted as they watched the river of energy clash with the black balls of light. As the two energies entered a stalemate, a large black brick appeared behind Chu Bei. The black brick trembled, releasing tens of thousands of black rays of light. Each ray of light connected to the black balls of light in the river of laws. The devouring power contained in these black balls of light instantly soared to an even higher level. At this moment, the stalemate between the two energies was broken. Whoosh! A large number of vortexes appeared in the surging river of energy. The source of these vortexes was none other than the black balls of light. A few moments later, the strange river of energy split into nearly 10,000 streams, all of which were devoured by the black vortexes. The mysterious energy suppressing the portal master's attack has been neutralized. Heavens! The all-heavens shopmaster is simply too crazy. He must have already surpassed the portal master's cultivation. Just what kind of cultivation realm is he at? Looking at the disappearing river of energy above them, countless experts were stunned once again, unable to regain their senses. Ever since the all-heavens shopmaster had arrived, they had been shocked again and again. It's gone. Witnessing this, the blood demon primogenitor let out a long sigh, feeling as if all his strength had been sucked out of him. Do you think this god still needs to listen to your orders? Chu Bei calmly looked at the blood demon progenitor with his hands behind his back. As he spoke, the black giant clenched his fist, and with a bang, the blood demon progenitor's true body exploded. Fortunately, his soul had not been destroyed, and his physical body was immediately reconstructed. However, in the previous explosion, a lot of devouring power had invaded his spirit. Vaguely, he had a feeling that as long as the owner of All Heaven's shop willed it, the devouring power would instantly annihilate his spirit and cause him to truly disappear from the great domain of chaos. After hearing Chu Bei's mocking words, the blood devil primogenitor no longer dared to show any disrespect. He returned to the blood devil's sacred land as soon as possible, not daring to say another word. Above the purple pole gate, the purple pole primogenitor was also silent. His large eyes were filled with fear towards Chu Bei. Immortal emperors like Myriad Beast Progenitor and Kue Mu didn't dare to speak. They instinctively lowered their heads when Chu Bei glanced at them. Are all of you curious as to why I am not suppressed by the origin energy of the chaotic heavens? Chu Bei's smiling voice echoed in the chaotic heavens. Upon hearing this, the blood demon progenitor, the purple pole primogenitor, and the other three supreme immortal emperors all looked puzzled. Because I don't belong to the chaotic heavens, Chu Bei said. When your strength reaches a certain level, you can directly wipe out the origin energy of the chaotic heavens, not to mention being suppressed. What? The chaotic heavens has an origin energy? It's suppressing the gate masters and preventing them from leaving. The owner of All Heaven's shop doesn't belong to the chaotic heavens. How is that possible? Then where did he come from? Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, countless experts were in disbelief. Chu Bei's words seemed to have completely shattered their worldview. If you think that this opportunity belongs to everyone in the chaotic heavens, and if you don't fear death, then go in. Chu Bei said calmly as he pointed at the huge black ball of light above the fallen Emperor River and swept his gaze across the experts in the surroundings. Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, The quasi-immortal emperors and even those who had just entered the immortal emperor realm looked at each other excitedly. Many thanks to the All-Heavens shop. The experts' eyes were filled with gratitude. A moment later, the experts of the chaotic heavens led by Chu Bei leaped into the black ball of light. Splash! This was a blood-red ocean. Above the ocean, countless colorful mists floated, each of which contained a supreme emperor's aura. From time to time, strong winds would surge, carrying with them patches of emperor runes that swept through the water. What is this? Where is that humanoid thing we saw outside? Could it be that this place calls itself another world? The experts who had entered the black ball of light looked at the boundless blood-red ocean in astonishment. Even with their cultivation, the divine sense they released was actually suppressed in this place, and they were unable to sense anything. Rumble. In an instant, a soul-stirring rumble drifted out from the distant stars. Soon after, the calm blood-red ocean began to boil. The river of time is unstable. What's going on? What's going on? Look over there. Not only the experts from the other spacetime, but even Chu Bei and Yi Fan looked toward the depths of the blood-red ocean. There, between the sea and the stars, was suddenly filled with boundless darkness and mist. A huge palace with no end in sight floated on the surface of the sea. Like a ship, it floated towards Chu Bei and the others. Looking over, there were many buildings in the palace. They were magnificent and huge, and no one knew which epoch they were built in. They were majestic and awe-inspiring. The moment it appeared, the immortal emperors below the first emperor realm 5 stars felt their majestic immortal chi being suppressed. As for the quasi-immortal emperors, their bodies trembled uncontrollably. They couldn't help but want to submit and kowtow. Chu Bei frowned, and his eyes turned cold. He also felt the power of the palace in the depths of the blood-red ocean. However, this power didn't pose much pressure to him now. Di-san, this is definitely Di-san's power. Looking at the approaching palace in the depths of the blood-red ocean, the expressions of the supreme experts changed again. Boom! Suddenly, a huge hole appeared in the starry sky above the palace. With a loud bang, a huge silver tablet fell in front of the palace from the gap. Origin Source Tomb. Looking at the 2 bloody words on the silver tablet, the immortal emperors were shocked, and their eyes were filled with fear. Origin Source Tomb? Was it referring to a place name? Where is it? Did that palace really come from the end of the blood-red ocean? The immortal emperors looked ahead in a daze and muttered to themselves in confusion. Chapter 8:11. The blood on the silver tablet was black. It carried the rune fragments of time and flowed with the power of the origin of darkness. With just a glance, even someone as strong as an immortal emperor would lose his mind. This was too terrifying. If one sensed carefully, they would find that not only the silver tablet, but the entire vast palace complex was filled with a dense aura of death and endless power of darkness. Master, do you know where this is? Yi Fan looked at the palace in the depths of the blood-red sea in a daze. Then, he looked at Chu Bei and asked tentatively, "When your strength reaches a certain level, you will naturally know everything." Chu Bei smiled and avoided answering. "Who woke me up?" At this moment, the palace trembled again. There was movement in the central palace. Suddenly, a voice sounded. It was ancient, vicissitude, and oppressive, causing the immortal emperors to feel a chill. This voice was too terrifying. It was as if a peerless emperor was questioning and looking down. It was enough to make all living things in the world tremble. Their bodies and souls would be turned into dust with a single thought. "Are you a native of this place? Where is this?" A 3-star immortal emperor at the first emperor realm asked. "I am asking a question. You only need to answer. It is not your turn to ask." As the cold and majestic voice fell, an explosion sounded. A supreme expert's body and primordial spirit exploded. It was the person who had asked the question earlier. This, in an instant, above the blood-red sea, all the immortal emperors fell into fear. They stared at the palace in the depths of the sea in panic. With a single thought, he had killed a 3-star immortal emperor. "Who is it that woke me up?" The ancient and cold voice sounded from the palace again. It was filled with the aura of an emperor and carried supreme majesty. The cold and emotionless voice sounded in their ears again. No one dared to speak again, as if they were afraid that they would end up like the previous immortal emperor. Dong, dong, dong. Just as the blood-red sea fell into dead silence, a deep and rhythmic muffled sound shook the hearts of the experts. Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back and walked toward the palace in the depths of the blood-red sea. In an instant, all the immortal emperors in the blood-red ocean focused their attention on that familiar figure. Is there going to be another battle between the three realms of the Emperor realm? The group of supreme experts gasped nervously. They had even temporarily forgotten the meaning of the two words Genesis tomb on the silver tablet. It was you who woke me up. Above a pavilion in the middle of the palace, a purple light appeared, and a vague figure could be seen in the purple light. He was high up in the air, dignified and holy. He hadn't even revealed his body, but he was already exuding an invincible aura that looked down on all eternity. What does that have to do with me? Chu Bei looked at the purple light above the pavilion without any fear on his face. At that moment, he merged with the power of the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disc. He had his own conceit and his own invincibility. Those who enter the tomb must be pious and sincere. Kowtow with every step. The palace that had been corroded by the power of darkness released specks of pitch black and deep luster, as if it was polished from black immortal gold. The dignified voice reverberated above the blood-red sea, rumbling and shaking the palace. It seemed even more dignified, holy, and inviolable. Chu Bei didn't reply. His cold gaze swept across the palace in front of him. To his surprise, he didn't know if it was because of the palace or the silver tablet, but at that moment, the Origin Tool catalog and the golden disc in his sea of knowledge were swaying crazily. It was a kind of desire, as if it urgently wanted to obtain something. Looking around, the palace was very spacious and dusty. Some statues were covered in dust, and no figures could be seen. There was only a sense of ancientness, vicissitudes, and desolation. Some corpses were piled up under some broken rocks. It was unknown how many epochs they had been dead for. How dare you not worship the tomb when you see it? Suddenly, a cold and indifferent voice with some anger came from the purple light above the central pavilion. The voice was loud and resonated with the stars, causing the boundless blood-red sea to tremble violently. It was as if an emperor had descended, suppressing the world with his might. Hearing this, the expressions of the celestial emperors became more and more serious. The creature in the purple light was really too powerful. Judging from its aura, it had even surpassed the master of the door. Just a shout alone was enough to make their souls tremble. If they were in front of the palace, the 6 words just now would be enough to shake their souls out and set foot on the road to death. This was really too powerful. Just chanting the incantation could end the life of an celestial emperor. Boom. However, in the face of such a terrifying pressure, Chu Bei's steps were firm and powerful. His expression was unmoved as he continued to stride forward. With every step he took, the blood-red ocean and the starry sky trembled along with him. Even all the buildings in the dark palace shook as if they were about to rise into the sky. When he was not far away from the palace, Chu Bei stopped in his tracks and punched out. On the surface of his fist, a beam of 10-colored light spewed out. A terrifying aura covered the sky and covered the sea. It was pitilessly domineering and went straight into the depths of the palace, directly suppressing the purple light above the pavilion. Why would I be afraid of a mere Di3 ant? Worship. What qualifications do you have? Chu Bei's eyes narrowed, and then he shouted. His voice was loud, as if the Lord of the Celestial Emperors was giving a decree. His words were the law. The runes of the great Tao condensed above the blood-red sea, turning into a 10-colored decree. There were blazing flames, black snowflakes, and yellow sand dancing in the sky. It followed closely behind the 10-colored light and bombarded the purple light. The 10-colored light intertwined and flickered. It was too powerful and too dazzling. The originally dark palace was instantly illuminated. At the same time, Chu Bei's body released the 10-colored light. The holy light sprinkled down, giving people a sense of incomparable holiness. At this moment, He was like the eternal ruler of the universe. The celestial emperor had manifested, and his divine might was unparalleled. The 10-colored light illuminated the darkness, turning everything into light. Impudent! Suddenly, a shout came from the purple light. It was filled with anger, killing intent, and endless dark runes. He seemed to have felt provoked, so he attacked without hesitation. A gray palm stretched out from the purple light. It was almost shriveled, with skin wrapped around bones. It seemed to be slow and heavy as it slapped towards the 10-colored light, carrying with it the monstrous might of an emperor. In the palm, the power of the origin heaven was endless. The sun and moon rotated, and the stars were endless. Heaven and earth were opening up, and chaos was evolving. There was also a path leading to an unknown place faintly discernible. The palm did not look big, and its size was very ordinary, but it seemed to control everything in the world. It could split heaven and earth and control reincarnation. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! A world-shaking collision. The bloody words Genesis tomb released a chilling white light that enveloped the entire palace of darkness, protecting it from being destroyed by the aftershocks of the explosion. As for the starry sky, it completely collapsed. The blood-red sea completely cracked, and the two formed a boundless storm. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.